Hello, and welcome to Licking Comics for Clout. Remember, lick those comics in the shop and put them back on the shelves. Don't actually do that because that's disgusting.
But it does increase the value.
Yeah, they're no longer mint by that point. I'm Mike, and I'm joined with a wondrous panel today.
Of Dan.
And Dan.
And Dan, welcome back from vacation.
Thank you, guys. Glad to be back for the weekly show. So thank you.
So, did you have a wonderful vacation? Are you happy to be back?
Yes, I read a lot of stuff. Finished up Brubaker's Daredevil run. Read Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Trinity. That was a really good book.
It's a good book. It is a good one.
It was awesome. But yeah, got a lot of reading done in my spare time. So.
And you got a lot of reading done in your spare time. We got a lot of reading done this week as we have 22 books to talk about this week. So there's no haul segment. That's as much as you're going to get. The only other thing we have to say, Vince is not here this week. He got trapped digging through dollar bins at some location of a comic book store in Philadelphia.
Well, let's give the full story here, Mike, very quickly. He told us about noon that he was going to be digging through some dollar bins somewhere. We have yet to hear from him. We've tried to reach him. We are pretty sure he's okay. One time he did this for a whole weekend. So until it's like Tuesday and we haven't heard from him, we're not going to worry.
Yeah,
He'll probably be back next week.
Show without him, then I'm not really concerned. But our retro book for this week was Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, number 73. Dan, kick us off in this marathon.
Awesome. Okay, so Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, number 73, as Mike mentioned, written by Bill Mantlo and penciled by Al Milgrom. So two pretty iconic Bronze Age, I guess, writers, artists. So pretty much the way that this story starts off is we have Peter Parker being just walked up to open the door to his apartment and told by this random shady guy that he is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. And this obviously Peter flips out, and this guy explains, he's like, no, I'm the psychiatrist for Deborah Whitman. She's going crazy, so I think she thinks that you're Spider-Man, so she needs you to come down and help her out. And obviously Peter Parker, being the nice friend that he is, he gets distracted and ignores that shit. And
literally until the end of the issue. It's like exactly. The last page is like, oh yeah, I should probably think about Deb.
Exactly. So in the meantime, Joe Robin, oh my God, I can't talk. Is that his name? Joe?
Robbie.
Robbie. Yeah, my bad. He calls up Peter, says he needs him on a picture detail. Boomerang, who's being held in a court for, I guess, contempt, being with the Kingpin stuff. And in the meantime, as Peter goes over there,
he's in court from the events that happened in Amazing Spider-Man 238.
238, correct.
What happened in that issue? I don't know. I just read the editorial box.
I read it too a few years ago, and I can't even tell you what happened. So must have not been important, I guess. But anyway, we get some foreshadowing here with the Owl, who's back, and he wants to acquire Boomerang because I think he thinks that Boomerang has some knowledge about the Kingpin, who the Owl's trying to take down and become the crime lord of New York. So we have Peter coming into the courtroom. He meets up with Ben Urich, who is here doing the editorial piece, I guess, on Boomerang's court case. And in the meantime, we get Boomerang arguing with the judge and throwing things around. And pretty much the one thing that bothers me about this issue is that Boomerang is pretty much just like a ripoff of Bullseye, and it's kind of annoying. Pretty much the end of this issue, I'll sum it up really quick. Peter tracks down where Owl is being kept, and then Dr. Octopus shows up. They throw down. Dr. Octopus and Owl team up to take down Spider-Man, but then Dr. Octopus is like, this is getting out of hand. I need to get the hell away from here. And the Owl escapes as well. And we pretty much end with, like Ginger Dan said, Peter Parker going back to his apartment, being upset about not getting any progress done really in his whole life, and then deciding to call that psychiatrist to help Deborah out. So overall, pretty typical issue for this era, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I thought it was pretty good. It's definitely setting up some more stuff. I believe this is the start of what gets called like the Owl and Octopus War or something along those lines, and it definitely planted some interesting seeds. Well, with Owl and Doc Ock both wanting to like kind of take over as the kingpin of crime, even though Kingpin still exists. It was kind of funny how Owl like recruited Ock, and then Ock came in and was like, "Yeah, I'm just not going to take your offer," and he was like actually surprised at that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Nice bronze-ish age. I think this takes place right after Roger Stern's run on Spectacular Spider-Man, and while he's writing Amazing. So I read that omnibus and like vaguely knew about this because it's like, it's that era where it's like some character throws off some, offhand comment, and then there's a little caption box is like, in the ongoing Isle and Octopus War over in Spectacular or something like that. So like, it was kind of interesting to finally see it, and good book overall.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was an adequate book. To give a little bit of detail, as this is the first time we've covered a Spectacular issue, this was the first actual proper Spider-Man spin-off book, as Marvel Team Up doesn't really count. But what's really weird is that this has only really kind of been collected in Masterworks. Not really any dedicated collections other than Tombstone, which didn't get past Volume 1. It has no omnibus or epic collections, despite a lot of popular things happening in this book. I think this is where Harry Osborn's death is in Spectacular Spider-Man. So odd that we haven't gotten really anything from that on the Marvel collection side yet.
They've always been in like along with like an Amazing book or something, like I said, in the Spider-Man by Roger Stern Omni. Like the first half is Spectacular, but the second half is Amazing. And the only reason it's like that is because it's Roger Stern writing all of it.
And then obviously Peter David would go on to have an acclaimed run on Spectacular with the death of Gina Wolfe. And then J.M. DeMatteis gets on, like I said, doing the Green Goblin, Harry Osborn death stuff. That's never been collected. And then we get into the fun era of the Clone Saga in the 90s. And if you want to hear me talk about those issues, well, we did a 72-part podcast on that. So shameless plug again for the Saga, the Clone Saga. But there you have it on Spectacular Spider-Man number 73, which was indeed the first part of the Owl Octopus War.
Definitely one of the stronger retro books, I think, in a long time. At least for me.
Well, you missed the last two, so
yeah, I don't know.
I feel like this is just I probably won't remember this at all, but this is one of a more fonder remembered story in the loose days of not everything being written for the trade yet. But like I said, we got 22 we got 22 books. That's one down, 21 to go. And sticking with Spider-Man, we're going to cover Marvel first this week, jumping right into Amazing Spider-Man number 25.
All right. So if you didn't know, this is 60 pages of Spider-Mania. That's right. This Amazing Spider-Man 25 is 60 pages. Written by Spencer, art by Otley, Ramos, and more. So there's, for the most part, there's two main stories that are going on throughout the book. We have bookended kind of by stuff from, I believe, the last issue with Mysterio and it's Kindred, right? That's his name?
That's what he called himself at the end of 24. I'm sticking with Kindred until I'm told otherwise.
All right. So we start off pretty close to the Ravencroft Institute, where there is a doctor, if I can find the name, Ludwig Reinhardt, and Kindred approaches him, and we get some cool panels from way back in Spidey's history, and we find out that this Ludwig Reinhardt is actually Mysterio, and that he did this again, which I thought was a really neat little callback to early issues, and also kind of in Mysterio's character traits, I feel, to kind of pull the same trick twice.
Especially since we thought he was dead at the end of the last issue.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good fake out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely well done. Kindred's kind of pissed at him because Mysterio told, I believe, Spider-Man his name. Basically, there's some like trust violation stuff going on.
He told the psychiatrist his name.
Psychiatrist, right? And then psychiatrist died.
Yep.
Because Mysterio, not hallucinated. What's the word?
Convinced
hypnotized whatever the actual Reinhardt that he was Mysterio. And basically, Kindred strikes a deal with Mysterio to do what Mysterio has always wanted to do, and hands him this stack of paper held together with a paperclip, and he says that Quentin wrote it. And we kind of just drop this completely until the end of the story, but it comes back in a very cool way. So basically, like I said, there's two main stories going on simultaneously here. There's a Peter story, as he's Spider-Man trying to free the Lizard from a self-imposed exile, as well as MJ, who is going to the theater with, originally it was supposed to be with Peter, but in a classic Parker move, he doesn't show up because he's doing something. So she goes with Carly Cooper instead. The play, fun fact.
Carly showed up in this series.
Yeah. The play looks like it's called Galactus or something. We only see part of it on a panel, but it's basically a Fantastic Four play, which I thought was kind of funny. Mm-hmm. We also find out that I believe MJ got the tickets because one of her former kind of professional rivals, Melanie Daniels, is in the leading role of Sue Storm, and kind of jokingly said that they should catch up. Basically, plot here is Melanie and Mary Jane looked very similar and were kind of like in the same spot professionally at the same time. So MJ was on Secret Hospital with a recurring role until, she had other stuff to do in her life.
She got pregnant and Norman Osborn ate her baby.
Yeah, that might be a reason. And she basically just gets replaced completely by this Melanie Daniels. And, MJ even addresses herself, like, you'd think, like, oh, soap opera story or, like, soap opera part, who would really care? Like, only my mom watches those. It's weird when my mom watches soap operas when she hits home, especially when she tells me it's the same ones that her mom watched. That aside,
I was going to say, they've only been running for, like, almost 80 years, because they started as radio dramas.
Crazy. But basically this soap opera part that Melanie Daniels had kind of became a breakout role up to her winning an Oscar, basically. So you kind of start to get this, like, look into MJ's, like, thoughts and stuff of being like, that could have been me if only my life was just a little bit different or whatever. The new Electro shows up and becomes important after we switch back to Peter, who's fighting robots. Again, he's trying to get to Kurt Connors, who put himself in a cell basically to die because he lost control again in the last arc, I believe. The play starts. Electro kind of starts a live-streamed kidnapping. So she kind of just forces everyone out of the theater and grabs Melanie Daniels and just literally from her phone starts live streaming. And it's like, if we don't raise this much money in X amount of time, I'm going to just kill her. And hilariously enough, people, I guess, just don't like this Melanie Daniels lady. So, like, typical internet comments, some of them are just like, fuck it, kill her. I don't care. So eventually, once Electro realizes she might not get the money from that, she sets up a different fund of kill her. Like, do I kill her or do I not kill her? And she says, like, over the next 5 minutes, whichever one gets more money in this, like, little, like, bidding war or whatever you want to call it, that's just what I'm going to do to you. And while that's happening, MJ, Carly, and the stage manager cook up a plan. So, and this gets revealed a little bit later, but basically what happens is Carly distracts Electro. While being distracted, Mary Jane gets Melanie off stage and pretends to be Melanie, like has already been established. They look very similar. So, and then MJ gives a wonderful, wonderful little soliloquy kind of about like why she wants to be an actress or whatever and stuff like that. It's very good. Highly recommend reading it. Not going to go into too much detail here. And basically, Electro was just like, holy shit, that was really good acting. I thought you weren't good at that. And it was like, well, I'm kind of not Melanie Daniels, and just rips off the Sue Storm wig. And, she's a little confused. Situation gets explained. And then a tub of water gets dunked on Electro, and she gets taken away. And then Melanie Daniels is just like, why is everyone talking about Mary Jane? I'm the victim. And then going back to the Spider-Man plot, he convinces Dr. Connors to give himself another chance. And he eventually goes back to his family. And, of course, his wife and son are happy to see him. And then at the end, Pete and MJ kind of meet together on a rooftop. And basically you'd think like, oh, maybe Mary Jane will be annoyed at him for missing whatever. And of course, at this point, they know each other well enough that this is kind of normal. And they both say like, I have a kind of like life-changing thing I want to like pursue. So for MJ, you assume that it is acting. And then for Pete, we realize that he is going back to school. So he hops in on a lecture, and MJ gets a phone call from her agent that she didn't know she still had. And was like, I've been fielding calls all day. And then this one guy asked for you by name, and we cut to this panel, and it's Mysterio with the what I can assume is a script that was handed to him by Kindred earlier. So I think this is setting up for a very interesting plot that'll be coming soon. And then after that, kind of an epilogue, Elektra gets broken out of the armored car she's in by, I believe it's called the Syndicate. Just
all the female villains.
Yeah, all the female villains. This is, I think, the third different series in which Nick Spencer has used the Beetle. So that's kind of a fun fact for you.
Yep.
And then after that, in, I guess, another epilogue, I don't really know how this story works. The professor, it's a lot. The professor from Peter's lecture is giving some speech about technology, yada, yada, yada. Most people think it's like the future and stuff, but in reality, he says like a lot of it's concerned with here and now, and kind of goes on like the bad parts of science. And there's some neat shots of like Fantastic Four, Hulk, Vision, Cable, and basically saying like, time travel maybe.
Yeah.
Basically, he's saying like, if we don't think about the future while we're doing this stuff, we're kind of just fucking over the present. And this goes on for a while stuff's happening in the background, and eventually Miguel O'Hara is in the present because of, I guess, reasons. Who knows? Science, maybe. And then after that, we have a story that features Jonah and Pete, which is very good. I'm going to try and scroll through to see who wrote it.
It was the Zeb Wells and Todd Knox story.
Yes, I liked this story a lot. Basically, if you didn't know already, at this point in the Spider-Man stuff, Jonah knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So at about midnight, Jonah is just in Peter's apartment waiting for him. And Peter obviously swings in as Spider-Man and is like, what you doing here, Jonah? And Jonah, I love this exchange, says, you came. Yeah, this is my apartment. You weren't answering your cell. I don't think we have that kind of relationship. We do now. Let's go. And obviously Pete's just like, I'm exhausted. How'd you even get in here? And JJ says like, let it never be said that I don't know how to pick a lock. And you just cut to the door, and it's very clear he just busted it open with a crowbar. He kind of sort of denies this. And basically the reason he does it pretty well, I'd say. He doesn't flat out deny it, but he doesn't flat out.
He takes a crowbar out of his jacket.
Oh yeah, in like the next like page or two, he whips out a crowbar as there's a villain that is appearing, and Pete's just like, a crowbar! I knew you did that. And Jonah's just like, good job, great detective work. But basically the reason Jonah was waiting for Pete was because there's been some like disturbance in the alley where Jonah lives and can't sleep, which is kind of funny considering Pete is not sleeping because of this. And there's some weird alien that appears with some gremlin things, and he calls himself the Dichromator. He changes people's colors or something. I don't know. Pete's costume in like the middle where he gets hit by a ray is a different color. And then paralleling the first scene, Spider-Man is now in Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, sitting waiting for him, and says, you came. And it kind of just repeats itself. like I said, pretty good. The story after this is one of those, we forced a bot to read every Spider-Man comic and then asked it to make its own Spider-Man comic. This is what it created. If you've ever seen any of those, it's about what it sounds. It's just some words just don't seem right. A lot of sentences don't work. It overall to me was pretty funny. Dr. Octopus is a literal octopus. There's like 70 Aunt Mays for some reason. Dr. Octopus uses math. Spider-Man gets out of that somehow. And the Daily Bugle, which is now the Daily Beagle, the headline is Spider-Man kills a bird.
Craven the Hunter dressed up as J. Jonah Jameson. Craven the Hunter shows up at the end.
Yes, he needs pictures of Spider-Man. Or sorry, he says, "I need spiders of Picture Man now," and slams his fist down. And this is where one of my favorite captions in here is Pete thinking after this, saying, "I survived another newspaper," which I know is meant to be a joke of like another encounter with someone, but I think that is the real villain in Spider-Man's life. And he says, "Finally, I can relax with my mini girlfriend," and it's just him with, I'm not sure, Silk, Gwen, MJ, Felicia, and I'm not sure again, just at a table, all drinking milkshakes when Craven the Hunter Jameson shows up. And the whole thing's just really funny. There's no real easy way to describe it. And then the next issue kind of teases the Superior Foes from one of Nick Spencer's earlier books.
Which, in the Ledger's pages, Spencer has hinted that we haven't seen the last of them yet. So this is him getting back to that.
I think it'd be cool to see him write them again. It's a great book. They've
shown up 2 other times so far, but so I do like how he keeps including them. But was this 60 pages of Spider-Mania?
I would say yeah. Maybe not full mania, but we were pretty close. Especially at the end there with that bot story.
Dan, how'd you feel?
I like this book a lot. I think the MJ story was fantastic. Really liked it. Was just a delight to read and see her do some really cool stuff, and in a way that makes sense. I think I've talked about this with you, Mike, but in the Spider-Man PS4 game where she's a reporter, we both thought that was a pretty good idea for her and what she was doing in there. And I think this is an interesting way to have her do similar things where she gets herself out of danger. And it also kind of still makes sense because she's out of play and uses her acting powers to do it, or her abilities as an actress to kind of facilitate it.
No, I completely agree. This is your pick of the week, right?
This is my pick of the week. Yep. Mostly for the MJ story. The Pete stuff was with Dr. Connors was good. I feel like it's happened before, but it was good. I'm really excited to see where this Mysterio plot with Mary Jane being the actress goes, because I think that's going to be absolutely fantastic.
I'm liking that Kindred is going to be a very slow burn, and maybe we are not even going to fully get to him in year 2. This is the big advertisement for this book. It's the kickoff of year 2 of Nick Spencer's and Ryan Ottley's Amazing Spider-Man. So what wonders are to come in year 2? We see a lot of that set up again. My only complaint is if 24 was a building issue, this was also a building issue. Weird to get 2 building issues like this back to back. Maybe there is a scheduling thing, and that's what happened with it. But I thought both issues are good. Spencer continues to do great things with MJ and Pete's supporting cast. I like this all-female villains team. It's weird to see I forget what the female Dr. Octopus's name is, but it's weird to see her back after her introduction was in the Clone Saga. So I kind of have weird Vietnam-like flashbacks to that, but I remember the stories with her actually not being that terrible. I think we ended up liking her a little bit, but I'm interested to see where that goes. Kindred, it's going to be a slow burn, and we see him that he's going to start trying to affect Peter through his friends, and we saw him with a bunch of photos of all of Spider-Man's allies. So I'm looking forward to see what he does there.
Well, it's not even his allies; it's all spider people, right?
Yeah. So I have no idea.
It's all the different.
Miles,
It's
Spider-Gwen,
let's see. There's
Superior.
you can see Ben Riley, Miles, Pierre himself, Spider Gwen.
Oh yeah, you could see better.
Can't tell. Looks like Otto is Superior.
Yeah.
Jessica Drew and Silk, and then a close up of someone's eye. It's green. I'm just gonna go ahead and out on a limb and say it's probably Mary Jane.
I think it is because it's been hinted that something bad is going to happen to Mary Jane. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I thought 60 pages any other week I would have been liking this, but with this many books, I was like, oh, please no. But the two main stories were good. I thought the backups were just all right.
I really like the team up, which was the Jonah and Spider-Man one. I like that one a lot. The bot one was funny, but it was also at times hard to read just because it's meant to be, I guess.
I thought like the bot thing is a little bit old. Like I feel like that's a 1.5 year old thing now. Like it's not.
It could be, but yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen any of them in a while, and I only saw a few when it really was a thing. So I think for me, it was still pretty good. And if nothing else, it's just straight dumb humor, and every once in a while you just really need that.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, I like this. This was definitely in contention for my pick of the week. But I liked Ramos on the lizard parts. My only thing with that is I still feel like we're kind of still wrapping up from Hunted, and Hunted was such a long story with all those tie-in issues that I wished like, all right, I hope we're set and done now, because this is like I felt like we've had 3 epilogue type issues to this now. That's my only takeaways, but yeah, still enjoyed this a lot. The MJ moments that Spencer has continue to be the standout, and I'm so happy that he's kind of fixed her and given her a place back properly in the Spider-Man titles.
Agreed.
Mr. McNamara.
Yes. What am I doing now?
Did you like this book?
Yeah, I thought just what you guys said. I mean, I only read the first story actually, but I thought it was really good. The MJ moments were pretty nice to see. And just to step back and talk a little bit about Nick Spencer, like I really like the way he writes, dialogue and stuff like that. It's very easy to kind of read and it flows really well. There wasn't a lot of times where I was taken out of the book and I'm like, oh, I don't know what's really going on. Like he really does a good job writing like the characters, and the scenes just seem to flow. I don't know if it's just because it was like a longer issue and there wasn't as much dialogue going into it, but I mean, I thought it was really good. So.
All right. And now our last Spidey book of the week, Symbiote Spider-Man #4 by Peter David and Greg Land. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. There's a giant fight between Spider-Man and Mysterio. They fight twice in this book. Mysterio gets beat the first time, and while he's trying to get the little sliver of the costume away, Spider-Man just comes and beats the crap out of him. But the little piece of the costume still gets away as Kingpin's goons come in and Spider-Man deals with them. And then Mysterio is then taken to a back room and being prepared to get beaten viciously by Wilson Fisk, but the sliver of the symbiote is now grafted onto Mysterio's body, so he gets powered up symbiote style, and he's going to fight Spider-Man in the next issue. That's pretty much all that happens in this comic book. Oh my god, I cannot wait for the ending of this, because this was a whole pile of nothing.
And
I'm not a big fan of Greg Land's art in this book either.
Mysterio's in a lot of books. Books this month. It seems like there's like a movie or something that's out with him in it, right? I don't know. Is that like a coincidence?
That just doesn't sound right.
But here's the thing: like they all synced this up like better than usual. Where it's like the movie came out and like Mysterio was already in books before the movie came out. Like it's not like months later that Mysterio's in a book. Like they synced that up perfectly.
They did.
But I'm getting a little Mysterio fatigue now, I'm going to say. And he's my favorite Spider-Man villain, and he's hardly ever used, and I feel like all right, guys, we get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, hardly ever used is going to become overused very quickly.
Yep.
It's a very decent chance of that right now.
If we're talking overuse, look at the 2019 and 2020 plans DC has for the Joker. It's,
oh, God damn it.
You're not wrong.
Damn. We're about to read those books.
I'm gonna read 3 Jokers and probably hate it, but
we gotta find out if we hate it.
We have to find out. But yeah, this issue went by so fast. Like it was like blink and you miss it. Like this could have been 4 issues, but I feel like it's definitely stretched out to fill a trade for 5.
Yeah, this is like half of an actual story of an issue. Like it's just all set up, and then the last scene is like, oh, we're fighting, and that's the end. It's like, okay, well, where's the rest of the book at?
Yeah, and it wraps up the next issue. So I'm kind of happy this is wrapping up. It's kind of been it's not been a mess, but it's definitely not Peter David's best work. I've even seen better work from Greg Land.
I mean, in concept, it's a great idea. It's just not well executed, like you said. So
that's all I got.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the June's highest selling book in comics, Black Cat?
Oh yeah.
Black Cat #1 was the highest selling issue of June.
But that honestly surprised me.
Yeah, it surprised me too, but I think that's because there were a billion covers for it.
Yeah, you know what's funny now that you mentioned that is one of my coworkers, he collects a lot of variants and stuff like that, and he'll get them graded, CGC slab, that type of stuff. And he showed me like 3 or 4 signed copies of like the artist, like for the Black Cat #1 that he got. And I guess there's like a fetish out there for Black Cat fans. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I guess
it's the first time she's ever had an ongoing.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it is.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm happy it was the #1 selling book. If that's inflated doing to having a bunch of covers, so be it. But hey, if it's not Batman or Spider-Man in the #1 slot, I feel like that's always good because that means general audiences are ready to give something else a chance. Especially look at Mortal Hulk. Mortal Hulk has been consistently in the top where it's outselling Batman. So hey, if Black Cat's going to be a successful book selling wise, all the power to it. But what happens to Black Cat #2?
So picking up from Black Cat #1, Felicia and her, collection of goons stole a bunch of art from a museum, the Frick Museum, and they were chased down by this guy named Sonny Ocampo, who basically got the shit beat out of him by Black Cat and everybody. So he's feeling a little scorned. And as Black Cat and her, buddies are chilling in their hideout with the new stuff that they got, Black Fox actually shows up. And for anyone who doesn't know, Black Fox worked with Felicia Hardy's father, Walter Hardy, back when he was, a cat burglar, just like Felicia was, until he got caught. So he's going through with her and her goons, like, there's a score that's, over here in this one place, but we're going to need magic. And Black Cat's kind of hesitant about it. She's like, magic is not my style. I don't really know much about it. And they talk about how they're going to need a Merlin, which is pretty much like someone who can use magic. So the 4 of them kind of team up. Black Fox is leading the mission with Black Cat and then these 2 other guys that she's with. And they bring along this guy named Xander the Merciless, which pretty sure if Vince was here, he would know where this guy first appeared or whatever. He's actually kind of like Doctor Strange, but he actually has lost like all his power. I think he was like in a fight with Doctor Strange and he lost like a lot of his stuff. I think his power derives from like this one gem that's being held inside of the Sorcerer Supreme's building, I guess, on Bleecker. Is that what it is? Is that the name of the
Bleecker Street?
Yeah.
And the word you were looking for was Sanctum Sanctorum.
Sanctum Sanctorum. I don't know why it totally slipped my mind.
I said it earlier too.
I know. My mind is just shot today. I'm sorry.
It's funny because you're going to talk about Doctor Strange later again.
Yeah, I will talk about Doctor Strange later. But But anyway, so the main issue is pretty much them breaking in. We get a flashback to Felicia being broken out of prison by a younger Black Fox, and that's where you get all the backstory to him. This Xander guy basically does like some sort of whispering shit and opens the door into the front of the Sanctum Sanctorum. We cut to this Ocampo guy, which I explained last time, was trying to track down Black Cat after stealing the stuff from the museum. And he's pulled into a limo by this woman named Odessa Drake, who basically gives him an offer that he can't refuse to help her track down and kill Black Cat, obviously. So we'll have to wait, I guess, till next issue to find out where that goes. But in the meantime, they're walking through the Sanctum Sanctorum. Black Cat talks to these like talking snakes, and surprisingly, the snakes don't attack. They just sit there and talk shit to her. What else? They get to we get a bunch of scenes of them like fighting off different gremlins and different things going on inside of the Sanctum Sanctorum. They get to the actual item that they're trying to steal, and it is the original deed to the island of Manhattan, which I guess is like really valuable.
Well, whoever owns that deed owns the island, right? That's how that works.
I guess so. So I guess Dr. Strange owns Manhattan.
No, whoever plants their flag there, it's theirs.
Oh, okay, that's how that works, of course. So in the meantime, as they're picking up this artifact, Xander actually wanders off and finds the stone that he needed to make him powerful again. So that's pretty much where we end. And when he finds the stone, he actually becomes like younger, because like before he looked like all battered and stuff. So the next issue, they show the cover to. I'm assuming she's gonna have to team up with this like Jewel or something to take this guy down. So, I mean, overall, this series is kind of interesting. I'm kind of excited to see where this goes. I like the backstory of the Black Fox. I am familiar with that from the original appearance of the character, but overall, I think this was a pretty solid issue. So, I know you guys didn't read it, but I don't know. It's probably worth checking.
At the very least, flipping through it, Travel Foreman's art still is breathtakingly beautiful.
Definitely, yep. And there's like a cool 2-page splash where we get like a bunch of text going through as they're walking through the stairwells. So that was a pretty good opportunity to show off his stuff. So solid.
All right.
I believe Giant Size X-Statix is up. Sure thing.
Yes, it is.
So, first, a quick disclaimer. I've not read the original X-Statix run yet. I own the omnibus. It is sitting on my shelf, waiting for the right time. That being said, this is as far as I can tell, a direct continuation from that run. The team on this, I believe, is the same, with Peter Milligan writing, and then Michael Allred drawing, with, I believe, Laura Allred on colors, if I remember correctly.
You are correct.
And book starts off, just gives you a quick rundown of what X-Statix was, like the team. They were originally X-Force, and then they kind of became commercialized, changed their name, and as you go through the book, it kind of explains a few of the different characters. And basically this book centers around Katie Jones, who used to be Katie Sawyer, who was the sister of, I'm guessing it's pronounced Edie Sawyer, who was Gogor from the original X-Statix. She was one of the ones that died. We find out very quickly that Edie was actually her mom and not her sister. Katie doesn't really take this very well, and she says it multiple times throughout the issue, but Katie just wants to be like a regular person doing real work. She is, I believe, still in high school, and she plans to become an engineer, and says it multiple times. She wants to be an engineer because she wants to be able to like build things and do something real, not something weird TV like her, as she now knows, mom did. She also does not like calling her mom, or when other people call her her mom. The basic plot throughout this is that X-Statix is kind of reforming, and they need a teleporter to get them out of situations. So they're kind of going after Katie, and at the same time, there is a new team that is being headed by Zeitgeist from the original X-Statix called the Excellent, spelled exactly as you would expect an X book to spell the word excellent. And they also need a teleporter. Teleporters are in high demand. And so basically, that's the entire plot of the book. People just want Katie to be a teleporter, and she just kind of wants to be normal. They recruit a couple of other children of other X-Statix members. There's Mike, who was the son of Tyke. I believe he was the anarchist, I believe. I think he has similar powers. And there's also Fatty, who has similar powers to her dad. Art's beautiful in this book. Looks just like from when I flipped through the book that's on my shelf. And the ending here is Katie does eventually side with X-Statix and gets them out of the Excellence home base, and kind of starts to reconsider being like her mom, being this superhero but on TV kind of deal. She thinks it might be a little exciting. And the ending, or one of the last pages, is that coming next year will be the Excellent #1, which is an all-new series, and it'll be by Milligan and Allred, which it's looking like it's going to be a continuation of this giant-sized book, as well as the X-Statix book that this book itself is a continuation of. And I believe the other interesting thing to note about this announcement for the Excellent is that this is the only X books that has been announced after House and Powers of X, I believe.
That's correct. That this is the first post-Hickman Powers and House of X title to get any sort of announcement. We don't even know what the main book after those miniseries are going to be called yet, which in 2 weeks, I believe those are starting, because next week is the final issue of Uncanny X-Men at 22. Vince was correct last week. I thought it was going till 23, but no. Next week is the final Uncanny issue at number 22. So yeah, it is very odd to see them come out and be like, hey, we're doing more X-Statix, which, hey, awesome, because Mike Allred's awesome.
Fantastic art.
Yeah, like, if Mike Allred is drawing a comic book, my level of interest of reading it goes up exponentially. And his wife, Laura, is just as good as he is with the colors. I feel like Mike Allred and Laura Allred, and even his son now, because they're kind of all involved. Anytime that team is working on comics, like, it always is going to look incredibly well done.
Agreed.
And it's going to look different than anything else on the shelf.
And I think this is just going to be speculation on my part, but it's looking like the Excellent is just going to kind of be off in its own corner of the X universe, which I think will be nice. Which is kind of how
X-Statix was too, I believe.
Exactly,
so
and it's
really well.
The original. When was the original X-Statix run?
I want to say like mid 2000s, late 90s.
Either way, it's very cool to be able to see the same creative team come back and continue their story after such a long time, and after almost all of these characters kind of being forgotten, almost, or at least forgotten in the main books.
It was, I believe, until 2004. So the team's first appearance was in X-Force number 116 in July of 2001, and then I think until 2004, which is when it ended.
Nice. So 15, 16 years later, they're kind of redoing it, and I think it's gonna be interesting. I like the idea of calling it the Excellent and having these two different teams that used to be the same team, and also they're kind of opposing viewpoints. Because I don't think I mentioned it in the rundown, but the Excellent with Zeitgeist are kind of like a Dada movement, which if you've read Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, you'll know what that means. But basically, it just means doing absurd things. It just means being absurd. If you've watched the Doom Patrol show and Mr. Nobody in there is decently faithful, or at least the show in general, where things just don't really make sense, and that's kind of the whole point of the movement. But I think that'll be really interesting to see.
I like the team. I like the powers. So this is really fun to me.
Yeah, this was a very fun book.
And
this was definitely in contention. Oh yeah, me too. This, like I said, I've never read it, and I'm waiting for the right time. this book made me think, maybe the right time is now.
Yeah, you have about a year to read it. Well, more closer to probably about 6 months, but
yeah. Either way, this is an excellent choice. Even if you haven't read X-Statix, it does a very good job of catching you up on who everyone is and kind of where everyone lies on like personalities and character traits and such.
And I think, too, like you said, it feels like Milligan and Allred literally just picked up where they left off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't miss.
And you can tell
having read without having read the previous original X-Statix series, but at least had that feel to me as a new reader going in.
Yeah, and going off the like picking up right where they left off, like time has passed in universe, like the one he's the guy that turns into the wolf. I can't remember the Vivisector.
Yeah,
he's been living a life with, I'm assuming, his husband, and has become a decently acclaimed author. So like time has passed, and that's really cool. Like these children are older that are the children of the original team. So it's very cool to see, and it's very cool that you just kind of had a time skip basically, and it's the same creative team, and it's just very good. Highly recommend reading this book.
Oh, I totally agree.
Any thoughts, Dan?
What did you say?
Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's funny that I saw this book come up on our list here, and the first thing I thought of was the X-Statix Omnibus, and yeah, I mean, I really don't have a lot of background, so this might be a good jumping on point. You know, once the trade comes out, maybe I pick it up and read it and see, just what it's all about. But
yeah, that was another interesting thing to wonder, like, where is this giant size X-Statix going to be collected eventually? I'm assuming it's going to be with the first trade of the Excellent, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right, I think it's a good time to move on.
It is. Mr. McNamara, tell me about Invisible Woman #1.
Invisible Woman #1. I think this is her first ongoing series, right?
Yes.
I think so, yes.
It's Wade returning to the realm of the Fantastic Four after he had the run in the early 2000s with Mike Arango.
Mike Arango, yep, rest in peace.
Fantastic series, that Wade and Arango era. Highly recommend if you haven't looked into it.
I finally tracked down the last Ultimate Collection, which is the last one I found, and I was searching all over for it for like a good price.
Mm-hmm.
So I have all 4 volumes, so I gotta read that at some point. I'm really pumped.
Oh yeah, it's great stuff. You're gonna love it.
Yes, definitely. I still have to read a lot of Fantastic Four stuff.
Me too. I also have to find most of it, but we'll get there one day.
Right? Where's my Volume 2 Burn reprint, though? Okay. So we open up to Europe in Basilstan, Hungary. Is that how you say that?
Made up name.
Basilstan, Hungary border from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Made up name of Stan.
Yeah, exactly. So we get a team up with Sue Storm with this guy named Aiden Tintretch. I think that's how you say his last name. So pretty much we get them trying to cross the border, her being invisible, and I guess they get tipped off by it, and they get chased through the border. They actually get to a point now where they're hiding in the snow, and the snow is falling so hard that it's actually creating an outline of the two of them. And we get to see here a little bit of Sue Storm's powers, how she can, obviously make people invisible if she's touching them. So they end up getting away. They end up getting to a car where Nick Fury picks them up, the white Nick Fury, not the black Nick Fury. And they get back to New York City. Aiden is like, why don't you stick around and help us out a little bit? I think Aiden is an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., I believe. I'm not sure if he's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent S.H.I.E.L.D.
I think he's CIA.
Oh, he's CIA. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think this was a S.H.I.E.L.D. mission. I maybe it was. I don't quite remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But so he's pretty much like, I think he kind of has the hots for her because he calls her Stormy all the time. And as she, he tries to talk her into staying, and she's like, forget about that. I have a day job. And she gives him a coat and the wig that she was wearing this whole time. We get a nice splash page of her in the classic Fantastic Four costume.
It's the classic costume too.
It's legitimate OG.
Like with the high-waisted pants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, it looks great. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the last time we saw that version of the costume.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that. Even like the little like the gloves as well that are blue, matching the suit. It's really pretty awesome. So, we flash forward to today where we just get a recap of the Fantastic Four. If you haven't already heard about who they are, talks about her, brother, her kids, her wife, her husband. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And then we talk about how she loves coffee. And so we just get kind of like a basic, look at Sue as a woman and talking about, the little things that she, tries to catch up on after all this world saving that she does. And then we go to the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, where she's brought in by this agent, I guess not agent, but this guy, Mr. Ballenthorpe, who's talking to her about this Moravian incident where these kids have been taken hostage. And in addition to the kids being taken hostage, Eden has also been taken hostage for intel and is being tortured. So obviously them telling her about this makes her want to go out and help him out. And the guy's like, no, that would jeopardize this whole thing. We have hostages in play that would be putting their lives at risk. So you are to stay away. If you can't provide us any intel, then there's no use having you here. You need to leave. So we then cut ahead to her getting a ship ready. The Black Nick Fury shows up.
Nick Fury Jr.
Yeah, Nick Fury Jr.
Colonel Fury, please. He likes to feel important.
Oh, yes, exactly. Perfect. Well done.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So he shows up, gives her some more information about where she's going, and he's like, I can't really stop you, but I'm not going to tell you to go or whatever. And she ends up flying over there, landing with the invisible ship, and just as she's about to attack these goons, another person attacks these guys out of nowhere, and surprise, surprise, it's the Black Widow, which this whole time throughout this issue, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, when is she going to show up? Because if Invisible Woman is going to be doing this like undercover reconnaissance shit, I mean, Black Widow's the obvious team up choice there, right? So
especially because Wade has prior experience writing her solo book too.
Yes, that is very true. Well, is that the 2014 series or something? Or
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I have the first trade for that. I got to read that. But yeah, next issue we get a nice, cool cover of that, and overall, I think this is a really cool issue. I mean, it's cool to see that she's going to be an undercover agent. Nice to see that she's doing her own thing, and I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like Sue Storm a lot as a character. I think this is a cool concept, and it makes sense with her power set that she would be useful in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
I know, even like going back, like she's like stupidly powerful if you're playing like Marvel Ultimate Alliance and stuff. So I'm like, I like seeing her in the forefront. She was great in Wade's Fantastic Four run, I felt too. So it is fun to see Wade back. I didn't love this first issue. I thought it was a little loose. I thought the art by Ginger Dan, you can correct me when I butcher the last name here. Mattia de Iluis.
Oh God, give me a second.
Yeah, it's in the cover.
I'm just gonna guess De Eulis or something like that. I don't know who this person is. I'm pretty sure you said I would correct you because you thought it was Spanish. It very well might be. I don't know. Yeah. Last names are hard. Mine is a shining example of that.
Yeah, especially since I've been saying the wrong last name for you for about 4 years.
You get used to it over a lifetime.
You never corrected me.
I never corrected my track coach in high school either.
But I felt like the art is in the wheelhouse of a Mikhail Janin, but Janin, I feel, has more dimension to his art, and I'll talk about that in Batman. But everything here was like flat to me.
Yeah, I would agree, and part of that might even be like the coloring as well, and like the shading. I feel like if there was a more detail with that, or maybe more details in like the line work, it would pop more. But yeah, it does seem very flat on a lot of panels.
It's like these rubbery clay faces. That's They're very still life. There's no motion to them. They're very like stiff, is the way I would describe it.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that. I was going to mention the art too, but you guys already beat me to it. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the art. I mean, there's some scenes where I think it's better than others, but yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know the splash page with Sue in the original costume, that looks good. I thought the moments with the plane, those looked good. But like overall, I thought it was a very inconsistent issue. Like, I don't think Black Widow looks that great in that last page splash.
Yeah, it took me a second to realize, okay, yeah, that's definitely Black Widow.
But I like where this is going, and at the very least, it seems like it'll be a fun 5-issue miniseries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll throw in my 2 cents real quick. Kind of like Mike, the concept's interesting, and it certainly makes sense given her power set. I also wasn't a huge fan of this issue. The page or two where she's kind of going over like the different aspects of herself once we jump to the present, where she is, and you get like just little quick panels that are just like a glimpse into her life, and like her life as a mom, a wife, a sister, a friend, etc., etc. Those were absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love that. The rest of this just kind of fell really flat to me. I just couldn't really get interested too much. To me, it seems like this miniseries might be going towards a kind of like a cookie cutter hero story where, you know, like, oh, I don't kill, but like everyone around them is telling her, oh, but you're gonna have to one day so you don't die. And like obviously one of those situations is going to show up again in one of the coming issues, and Sue won't kill someone because that's just how heroes are. So it felt a little inside the box to me, but it's by no means bad. It's just kind of middling, I guess I would say.
Yeah. All right. The alphabetical order. Next would be Riri Williams, Ironheart number 8, McNamara.
All right, Ironheart number 8. So picking up after the last issue, well, just to stop look at the cover, we get a Doctor Strange.
Who's this Mortal Kombat character on the cover?
I was just going to say, it looks like Sub-Zero or Scorpion or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know what blue.
It's Sub-Zero. It looks exactly. He looks like Sub-Zero mixed with Noob Saibot.
Yeah, he's the leader. He's apparently like the leader of the Black Hand, or not Black Hand, the 10 Rings. What the fuck am I talking about?
The Black Hand. Those are Batman villains.
Damn it! I'm getting them all mixed up now. Shit. But yeah, just going off of what happened last issue, we had a whole thing at the airport, the Midway Airport in Chicago, where people were being turned into zombies by this creature called Eclipse that apparently turned out to be working for the 10 Rings, because Riri Williams saw that she had a 10 Rings insignia on her, I guess, outfit or whatever. So they're trying to figure out, you know, everything's back to normal. And Riri Williams decides that the only way she's really going to be able to combat this whole thing is by, you know, looking into magic. Because the last time she faced off against the 10 Rings, she noticed that they were using some form of magic to, you know, influence her and get her to come over and be part of the 10 Rings. And we see kind of like some flashbacks to that whole fight, which I missed out. I didn't read the issues prior to this. But you know, we kind of talked a little bit about that. And then also Nadia Van Dyne's in here. I think that's her name. Yeah. She's part of, I guess, like friends with Riri Williams. And she talks a little bit about how she had to go through some PTSD things in the Red Room in Russia. So she leaves. I guess, you know, Riri Williams' friend Xavier, he leaves as well. He's like, you know what, you're crazy, you know, going nuts about this 10 ring stuff. I'm getting out of here. Call me when you're not, you know, freaking out. And so Riri Williams thinks about like where she needs to go to kind of figure out this whole, you know, issue with 10 rings. And she, you know, flies to the first person she knows has some sort of magic, and that is Doctor Strange in the Sanctum Sanctorum this time again. So going back to that. Yes, I got it right this time. So Riri Williams knocks on the door just opens wide up, and she is attacked by this giant, or she's seen Doctor Strange get attacked by this giant green, like kind of like a spider, but not really. and she just uses like a tank missile to kind of just blow it to smithereens. And Doctor Strange is like, well, I guess that's one way to take care of that. And they get to talking, and pretty much the end of this issue ends with her finding out that the magic she seeks to take down the 10 Rings is located in Wakanda. And there is one thing that's mentioned in here, which I don't know if it's relevant, if it's like related to the Black Cat stuff, but he mentions how there's one piece of like one artifact that's been stolen from him in the here. I don't know if that's related to this at all. It's called the Stone of Hala. I don't know if that's related to the Black Cat storyline that's going on, but if it is, it's kind of cool. But yeah, pretty much the ending of this ends with Riri Williams going to have to go to Wakanda to find out this power that she'll need to acquire to take down the 10 Rings. Overall, I thought the art was good. I mean, again, I think Vince kind of mentioned this a few weeks ago, is that, or maybe during our Fresh Start podcast a while back, where a lot of like the art nowadays, like in some of these books, is like very cartoonish. It's not very like photorealistic. I mean, which I'm okay with. It's just like
very kiddie. Like it seems very kiddie to me, and I feel like if I was flipping through this at like a store and didn't know what this book was, I think it was an all ages kids book.
Yeah, because I just don't know how to like put my finger on it, but it just, like you said, it just comes across like that, and I don't know what it is. I mean, the coloring is fantastic. I mean, it's just like the way the characters are drawn. It doesn't look like, I'm not gonna say the art looks bad. It's just there's something about it that makes me think that like I'm not reading like a Iron Man or Ironheart book. I feel like I'm reading something else, like you said, like an all ages book. But I mean, overall, I think the story is like, it's a pretty simple story to follow, and I think it's progressing towards something. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So,
all right. Hey, are you guys happy that War of the Realms is finally over?
yes.
Well, it's almost over because we got War of the Realms Omega #1, and these Omega issues are basically a long-standing epilogue to wrapping everything up and teasing what's to come. We get multiple stories in here. Jason Aaron at the helm of this, though, with Ron Garney. Our main feature, that's the preview to everything, is Daredevil talking with Heimdall as he's giving him back the sword that he used when Daredevil got turned into a god in War of the Realms, and talking about how there's a lot of heartfelt discussion here of Daredevil asking if he did a good job, and if he was a little bit blinded by the power of it, ha 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 ha. But Heimdall kind of picks up saying, no, you did a fine job, and if you're feeling down, we did do things right, and here's a peek of what all is to come. And as Heimdall shows him the visions, we are then shown Jane Foster and the tease of what's to come for her new Valkyrie series. She's working in a morgue and a New York Police Department building, and Thor comes in as they're having to take care of, as Thor is coming to claim the bodies of the dead Valkyries that died during the War of the Realms. And the spirits of the Valkyries reach out to Jane Foster and christen her the new Valkyrie as she's blessed with new powers. So that's the tease for that series. So we'll find out more in Jane Foster Valkyrie #1. The next story is a Loki story, which is the tease for his series, as he rescues and pals around with the little frost giant named Dirth, and the best part about this story is I felt that Loki stole Yarnborn and he's just walking around with it. But the takeaway here is that Loki's now, because Laufey's dead, he's now the king of Jotunheim. So the setup here is that he's going to rule Jotunheim in maybe a little bit mischievous ways, but he will not rule by the blade, but by the shield. And it looks like Durf is going to be a little kind of messenger and watcher for him in Jotunheim. So I thought that was fun. The next story, and then another story here was the setup for the Punisher. Is he's going to keep killing all of these monsters. That's what we're going to do with him now. It's showing that Punisher's still going around, killing some of the leftover Vikings and monsters that are left in New York City, and he's visited by one of his friends that he helped save but their family died. And this guy shows him a van of a bunch of orphaned kids of whose parents and relatives got killed in the War of the Realms, and they need a monster hunter. So they turn to Frank Castle, and we'll find out more in Punisher Kill Crew.
Wonderful new direction. Can't wait.
Yeah, wonderful new direction for the Punisher. He's been turned into a Frankenstein monster. Now he hunts and kills giant monsters. He's also been an angel of death. So, yeah, whatever at this point for the Punisher. At least explains why he was such a focus of War of the Realms. But the end of the story wraps up with Daredevil and Heimdall, as Heimdall, commending Matt Murdock for doing a good job, gives him he gives him a billy club, or just, I guess, what are the things Nightwing has? The Crimson Street? The sticks?
Eskrima sticks.
Eskrima sticks that are carved. Yeah, what you said. I'm going to try again. But they're carved out of the World Tree. So he was given to those by Heimdall as a gift, and they hear a mugging going on, so they both leap into the night to go stop it for Midgard, as they shout. I thought this was okay. It was a preview book for the stuff what's to come. Jason Aaron and Ron Garney were on the art duties for The God and the Devil Walk into a Church. It was the Daredevil and Heimdall story. The Job I Have to Do, which was the Jane Foster Valkyrie story, was Al Ewing and Jason Aaron. And then I wish I could pronounce the artist's name correctly. It's just one name. I think it's Cafu, or it's either CAFV, because I can't tell what the font for this stupid book. Born Small was the Loki story. That was Daniel Kibblesmith and Oscar Balzadua. And then War Orphans, which was the Punisher story, was Jerry Duggan with Juan Ferreira.
The name I definitely read wrong because I'm not expecting certain letters to appear where they do.
Yeah, the font in this book's terrible. But there you have it. War of the Realms is over. These books are coming. If I had to choose one to read, I think Loki looks interesting. Jane Foster Valkyrie I might check out because Al Ewing, who can do no wrong in my eyes with the Immortal Hulk, and I've liked everything by him so far. But yeah, that's what's to come in the line of Asgard books after War of the Realms. This event is officially over.
Yay.
And we're going to end Marvel this week on another book you guys didn't read. I don't know why I read this.
If it makes you feel any better, I also don't know why you read this.
By the way, I don't know if I'm sticking with this. Which was Wolverine Captain America Weapon Plus #1. Which was teased for like the last couple weeks that this was coming. Diogenes Neves is the penciler on this, and then Ethan Sachs is the writer. Ethan Sachs has written the Old Man books. He wrote Old Man Hawkeye and is currently writing Old Man Quill. So this is, I guess, the first time he actually has something that's not with an old man premise at Marvel Comics. But sticking with that, he's still writing a story featuring two very old men with Wolverine and Captain America, regardless. The issue opens with Captain America just walking in full costume, by the way, down the streets of New York as a spaceship falls out of the sky, and it's Wolverine pops out with a hologram message from Phantom X saying, "Hey, I'm dead. You guys got to continue on this research that was finding into the Weapon Plus program." It was revealed in Morrison's new X-Men that the Weapon Plus program has been along for a long time, and that it even hinted and started with Captain America. So the big takeaway here is that Captain America paved the way for all these other experiments, and he's kind of to blame for why all of these horrible things have happened. I hate that because I don't like that being connected anyway. But they're attacked by all of these grunt soldiers who are basically kind of copy looks of Captain America, but they're all defective. But the Wolverine and Cap get in their little spaceship. I think it's supposed to be like the same spaceship or that Phantom X had from like X-Force, where they go to Weapon Plus facility and they're attacked by like this grizzly bear, who is like this horribly morphed catastrophe of a transformation where it can like feel and it's like kill me, so they kill it. I hate this book.
but Mike, brute force are Weapon Plus now or something that I read and hated.
They run into a crazy Captain America whose mind was warped by the Weapon Plus program, who thinks he is the new Captain America. All the while, the scientist is watching from behind a screen, and he's the one responsible for Phantom X. And he was like, we see these flashbacks also where, when he was younger, he wanted to be Captain America, and he's been consistently trying to find the key to the super soldier serum. And then it's left with, he walks away as he shows a giant monster he has brewing in a tank. Okay, that's Weapon Plus number 1.
Cool. On to the indie books.
Yeah.
Let's just watch this all out with some criminal.
I don't like retconning things for what they have to be, but we're teased with other characters that now have been like grafted into this program. It looks like we have a bear claw logo, which I'm guessing might be the grizzly, one who's clearly Man-Thing, 2 Venom-like eyes, so I'm guessing Venom's now part of this, which would be another retcon to this goddamn alien, since he's supposed to be like an alien warlord monster from Null now or something. One that's like Luke Cage's tiara headband, so I'm guessing Luke Cage. And then one, it's like an opera mask with a white side face and a black side face. I'm thinking maybe Typhoid Mary on that one. We'll see. But I don't think I'm continuing this. I didn't think Sax's voices for Cap and Wolverine were that bad. I just don't think the premise of the book is really that interesting to keep me sticking around. Nevs's art was pretty good. I thought it was in the wheelhouse of Orion Otley. So that was fun. I thought the action scenes were really good too. I did not like Wolverine's costume, though. I thought too many buckles and like design lines on it. If you're going to draw the brown and tan, just draw the brown and tan. No need to switch it up. Especially when Captain America was in his standard Captain America costume with the scale mail and everything. Very odd to see a more kind of stylized version of the brown and tan Wolverine costume. That's my takeaway from that. And hey, that wraps up the Marvel books. So if you stuck with us this long, we're going to take a small break and go into Indie Corner. So our first indie book is going to be Criminal number 6. Dan McNamara, take us away.
So first off, before I get into this issue, I have to say this is probably one of my favorite indie books that I've read in a while. Probably ever, actually. Maybe actually.
What indie books have you other read?
Yeah, Dan, you're saying like this is the best of this this category of books of which I've read like 3 of so far.
Exactly.
No offense to you, and this is the correct answer for that, but like it's just kind of funny to hear you say that.
I know, it's just so good. I don't know what it is. I mean, I just come off the high of Ed Brubaker's Daredevil run. I mean, this is so good. But anyway, so basically this story, I don't want to say too much because I feel like I'll be spoiling for the people who haven't read it out there. But one thing I will say that this is all establishing the backstory from the issue prior, which starts off a new arc. So pretty much we're opening up to this guy named Teague Lawless, who is in love with the woman that has been on the run since the last issue. So we kind of get a little bit of backstory on him. He is actually part of this group that, just hit up these stores, stole 25 grand here and there, was able to live for a few months off this stolen money. And he was at a bar with this, or I guess a nightclub with his friend who was part of this job he was working on. And he knew this girl that, obviously we met in the last issue. And this guy named Teague was all over her. He wanted her so badly, but this guy was like, already knew her and was on to her and all that stuff. So Teague never forgot her, was always around, the two of them as they were doing stuff. And one night, this guy comes up to Teague and is like, do you want to help me go teach this girl a lesson? And he actually, goes and tries to kill her because she stole money from him while they were sleeping one night. So as they go into this place, this woman actually pulls out a gun and shoots this guy dead. And I guess that's, dead people on the floor is what, made them fall in love with each other, because these two ended up, running away and having an affair, and get a bunch of really nice splash pages by Sean Phillips of, just their affair and all that stuff. Really great use of color. I wonder who the colorist is on this book. But yeah, so we then page to the fact that their credit card got declined. They've been jumping through all these hotels. Throughout this whole process, this woman has shown some like weird signs of like, behavior, but T kind of just ignores it because, he's like a 50-year-old man, having sex with like a hot 25-year-old woman. So he's not going to question it. And then we basically fast forward to where we were at the beginning of the last issue, where the guy's interviewing her at the bar, and Teague is the one who actually knocks out this guy on the way in the parking lot. And
I think Jacob Phillips, which is Sean's son, is doing the inks and the colors.
That is awesome.
I would definitely second colors. I'm not as certain on inks, but I'm just also looking at the page.
But equally, I mean, we talk about it every time we talk about Criminal. Sean Phillips is a goddamn masterful genius when it comes to layout of a page, structure of a page, and then like having emotion and feeling between the panels. He's so damn good.
I know.
The color on top of it is this is a masterpiece work of art every single time this book is out.
Yeah, this is definitely my pick of the week. And I'm just really excited to see where this goes. I mean, every issue, it's like, what is going to happen next? And
well, we know Teague's going to die because Brubaker has said this is the story of the death of Teague Lawless, which him and Sean have wanted to tell for a very long time.
Yeah. So,
but Ricky's going to be in the next issue, and we know that Ricky is just as unstable as his dad is. But I'm very excited what's coming. This is, I look forward to Criminal every single time since the relaunch, and I plan on going back and buying all the previous volumes. But a masterclass in comics from two greats in Brubaker and Phillips here.
Definitely.
Always. But yeah, very excited to see what comes next. Let's talk about Ghosted in LA, Ginger Dan.
All right. So this is a new number 1. It's written by Sina Grace, illustrated by, and I'm just going to apologize now because I'm going to 1,000% butcher this name.
Can't possibly butcher any more names than I have.
Siobhan Keenan? I don't know.
Sounds better than I would have said.
Sure. Colors by Kathy Lee. This is from Boom, if I remember correctly.
Yes, this is Boom, but I think they have but inside their an imprint called Boombox.
Yes. So, yep, this is a new number 1. This is following the story of a girl named Daphne, who is from Missoula, Montana, and is now living in LA, going to school at, I think, UCLA.
Either USC or UCLA. One of those California.
She's in Southern California. That's the point here. Not gonna lie, the first half of this book is kind of rough to read because it seems like Sina Grace is going for that idea where you just start kind of in medias res and expect you to be able to pick up on the history of the characters just from the conversations that they're having, and it kind of works. But I had to go back and reread a couple of things a few times because I just couldn't quite tell what was happening. Basically, Daphne is talking with her best friend. Daphne is about to move to Southern California for college. The friend, I think, is going somewhere in Northern California. So oddly enough, they'll be somewhat similar locations. We find out that the friend does not like Daphne's boyfriend, who is also going to be going to the same college as Daphne. That was a thing. The friend accuses Daphne of just kind of blindly following him and not actually being in love with him, and like hating the gifts that he's gotten her because he doesn't actually know her. Your basic teen drama of this boyfriend's shitty, but the girl doesn't realize it yet. So Daphne moves into her dorm. Her roommate is a delight of a person who just kind of hates everything. Daphne's going to go to her first party, and kind of a recurring theme throughout this issue is that Daphne's about to text someone and then just deletes the message. It happens like 5 or 6 times. It's kind of weird. But she ends up waiting for like an hour. No, it's like 2.5 hours for her new college friends to be like, oh yeah, here's the address for this party we told you about. And they're just like, oh, oops, didn't you look at our Instagram stories? Get on a bus. Whatever, sure. She interrupts a Bible study that her roommate is holding. Her roommate is very religious. Daphne's Jewish, as we find out on a... Yeah, she might be wearing the necklace the whole time, but she has a Star of David necklace. She goes to her boyfriend's place. Her boyfriend immediately breaks up with him, or with her. Shocking. So after that, she's just kind of like walking around LA annoyed and stuff. Deleting text messages again. And then she literally walks into a gate somehow. I'm not really sure how she does this, because I'm pretty sure she would have had to cross a street to walk into this gate with the perpendicularness of it that she did. Whatever. I'm not an expert on LA's geography. But it's this old, I think it's a hotel, maybe a mansion, who knows. There's a pool. For some reason, she's just like, well, I'm already trespassing maybe, but not if I'm talking, so I'll just like dip my feet in. You know what? Let's just, strip down to my underwear and go for a swim. And she's just like chilling underwater, is like, this is really illegal. Or like someone could kidnap me or something. Thoughts you should have had beforehand. And then out of nowhere, a ghost shows up next to her and is like, hey, what's up? And she obviously freaks out. Finds some more ghosts. You get your typical shenanigans of a person just not really grasping the idea of a ghost and walking through one, hiding within a room. Of course, ghosts walk through walls. She passes out. The ghosts there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 ghosts there. You get a little hint of each of them and their personalities from the dialogue. And basically they're talking about what they should do with Daphne, because they don't want people knowing that they exist there, because they kind of like their lives, even though they can't interact with the physical world whatsoever, but they've come to lead like a pretty nice life. And Daphne basically like has a mental breakdown, is like, I don't have any friends here. I moved out to this place I didn't even visit before because I told my boyfriend to, and he broke up with me, and teen drama. And basically the end of it is like, hey, I could just like do random stuff for you if you like let me chill here and stuff. And the ghosts eventually agree, and she goes off, finally sends a goddamn text message for the first time in this issue. And that's where we leave off the first issue. Overall, the art from, not going to try and pronounce that name again. Once again, I apologize. I think it really fits the story. It definitely seems like a good, it's a good like art style that's for a story that's about this college age girl who's, I'm assuming, going to try and find herself through dealing with ghosts or something. Other than that, like I said, the beginning was a little confusing, but once she actually gets into LA, things start making more sense. And just to me, like some of the dialogue and like actions felt almost a little like a, oh, hello, fellow teen kind of deal, but for the most part, it was believable. So
yeah, I enjoyed the book. I'm total agreement with you on. I thought that it was a little bit slow of a beginning, but once the ghosts came in, I was like, okay, this is cute, and I dig this. I think I'm gonna stick around with this.
Yeah, I'd definitely stick around for at least like another issue or two and see where everything really pans out, like what she actually ends up, like how she interacts with the ghosts.
I especially liked the coloring in this issue at the beginning. It's a very muted and drowned out, and when Daphne gets to school, it's very bright again. So I thought that was a very nice narrative device there. But yeah,
I also think that's just the natural color of Montana, but I've never been there, so I don't know.
Neither have I.
No offense to any of the people living in Montana, any of the four of you. I'm sorry.
I like how the ghosts have all these different personalities.
Mm-hmm. It definitely seems like once they get fleshed out, we're going to find out that they're from different points in history.
Yeah. And then I also liked that Cinegrace put in the back of the book, she wrote, hey, here's some of my favorite comic shops in California.
Right. Yeah, it looks like there's going to be like an ongoing, instead of a letters page, she's going to have like here's my favorite spots in LA, or like here's like a guide to LA for like places to hit up. And this first one was comic shops, which is really cool.
And I can't remember if you mentioned it since the show's been so long now, but Cinegrace is mostly known for her work on Iceman at Marvel.
Yep, I did not mention that, but that is correct.
Once, like we said, over here at Boom with Ghosted in LA. Hey, sticking around in the next issue, I thought this was pretty fun. Very kind of intrigued to see where it goes.
All right. I guess that means on to our next indie book.
Yeah. Am I taking on Earth or are you taking on Earth? I can't remember at this point.
I believe I'm taking on Earth. Okay. And yep, this is Unearth. This is also a new #1. This time it's from Image. Creative team here. Story is Colin Bunn and Kyle Strahm, and alt is Baldemar Rivas, something like that. Basically, there's this loosely defined special ops team that might also be medical in nature that's sent to this small town in Mexico where this weird disease is broken out. And they think it's bad when they first show up there because there's like a number of people in like beds and stuff not doing well. And like this little kid who's showing them around is like, oh, you thought those people are just sick, but it's nothing compared to these people. And you get some like real body horror stuff of people just like bloated and contorted. And I don't know if they're like dripping or bleeding or like slowly vomiting or sweating or what, but like they're literally like collecting this weird pink shit from them in buckets to like throw out. And it's pretty gross. But yeah. Then we go to a flashback, which ends up being a dream, which I'm sure is going to get elaborated on later. Basically, just like it's a dream sequence. There's a lot of blood on me. It isn't mine. And we get to the who I assume is going to be the main character.
I love the way you described that flashback sequence, that dream sequence.
It's clearly going to be important. It just isn't yet. So like,
creepy little girl with a torn up fleshy face.
Yeah. Whatever.
It's funny. I'm like,
it's literally a single page in this book, and like I said, like it's clearly going to be an important and like a plot point and like something later. It just isn't yet. It's just laying groundwork. But we wake up, the person who had the dream / flashback. I say flashback because it literally has a caption that says Boston to 2016. So you're made to think like this is just straight up a flashback, but then someone wakes up and writes in a dream journal what it was. So it's a dream, a flashback, it's both. I don't know. We then go, the character who had the dream, believe will be the main character, is a Dr. Reyes. They're going to a mission briefing by a very out of shape man who is vaping and is somehow the mission commander. I don't really understand how that all works together, but whatever. This time we see a dog that had the same condition as the people from earlier. And the mission they're going on is to explore this cave that opened up recently, that these two kids found when they found this dog or whatever. The two kids who are brothers ended up killing each other for unknown reasons. We're led to believe it's probably something to do with this weird disease that's happening in the town. Gonna give some props here because one of the things they take with them on this little expedition into the cave is a I forget what they actually call it, but it's basically a robotic dog looking thing that can assist with various stuff, and it does look like more or less like robots of today. Like if you look at like Boston Dynamics and stuff like that, it's the same kind of concept. So that's a neat touch, keeping it a little realistic. They descend into the cave. It looks like it looks like someone has been here, even though this cave didn't exist until like a day or two ago. Something looks like a language. It's super creepy. They eventually find this like completely unique and new species of weird bug thing. And like I mentioned earlier, this team is like part military people and part medical people or like scientists. So one of the scientists is like, oh, this is awesome. We might have just found a new species. And someone just fucking Call of Duty, like, knife throws it and just kills it. And it was like, what the fuck? But, yep, they get some weird detection thing. They find some guerrilla fighters that are in the town going through their supplies. And they're like, huh, this is weird. The signal we picked up was for something much larger. And just this gigantic monster-looking thing, like kind of insecty, kind of not, just like made of goo. Little weird, kind of like this entire book. The one guerrilla fighter that is literally getting absorbed into this thing, it like talks about it a little bit or something else. Like it's one of those things where it's what you're led to believe that these guerrilla fighters know a bit more about the situation than anyone else do. The team tries to take it down. Eventually, a cave-in kind of happens, and they get trapped off, unable to get through to where they came in at. This little girl comes out of nowhere with a knife, and the one military guy is like threatening her with a gun and shit. Of course, the doctors on the team are like, "What the fuck? This is a little girl." And after that, the issue ends saying that there has to be like another exit, and it's through this way. I think they had mentioned earlier there was like a door or something. Yep, and that's where the issue ends, basically. I think some of the military people were going to stay behind because it wasn't within mission parameters or some military jargon type reason like that. Overall, I thought this book actually had a pretty decent pace to it and had just enough information in it to like kind of get you, maybe not hooked, but like get you interested in what's going to happen afterwards and what's going on with everything. I already gave props for the realistic-ish robot. The other really, really tiny detail that I liked a lot was, like I said, this town is in Mexico, and this team is definitely from probably America. And one of the really neat things is like only one of them is actually like fluent in Spanish, so one of them is being an interpreter the whole time when they're talking with like the little kid that's leading them around. So I thought that was really neat. You still have the kid speaking, he's speaking Spanish, but it's the comics thing where you just have the brackets and it says translated from Spanish. But either way, I thought that was nice having people speak the languages they ostensibly should be speaking.
Yeah, I thought this was all right. I'm probably not sticking with it. I'm just not very interested in like this kind of Prometheus alien-esque story of finding out what's going on. I think it's well done. I think the art is fine. I'm just not interested enough or compelled enough to stick around. And that's not a slight to Cullen Bunn or Kyle Strom, or Baltimore Rivas. I thought the issue was fine. Nothing here to really keep me coming back for more.
Yeah, I generally agree with you. I did like this book, but I definitely seems that it's nothing really special yet. Like it's perfectly serviceable and good for everything that's trying to be. It's just nothing like really stands out yet.
Definitely be more open to reading this in a collected format when it's all done.
Yeah, my thinking here was like if like a year from now I'm at a store and I see it in like a sale bin, I'd probably pick it up. But any other situation, I probably wouldn't, unless something changes in the next few issues.
Yep.
All right, that'll
Hey,
do
Danny
it for me.
We got one more indie book left. I know you've been sitting there a long time, buddy.
I'm yawning over here. Fuck.
You should have just taken a nap. This is going to be a long haul.
He did that once. He fell asleep. Did you fall asleep during the show once?
Matt went on like a monologue talking about like something. I was like, okay, boop, turn my monitor off.
I can't make fun of that because if you go on this channel and look at a haul video from a Harrisburg trip, I actually sleep on a table.
Oh yeah,
that was meant to be a joke, and I actually did fall asleep. It was really nice.
As a pillow.
I think so.
I can't remember. I think it's Dan. This is like years ago. Also, the show is just. I think it's the longest show we've done ever at this point. So I don't really care for length of time at this point. We still all got DC to do. So if you've been sticking around for DC, it starts like soon after this tangent was.
You get a drink, a snack.
I mean, in a way, it starts right when this tangent ends.
Yeah.
Well, kind of. But we got Black Hammer involved first, but Dan, you remember when we did that first omnibus review for X for Unchained?
Oh my god, I forgot we did that.
Do you remember that? I'm almost positive that if you go back and watch that video, if it was even uploaded, I don't even know if it was edited and uploaded, but I definitely fell asleep. And I'm like, you can see me do like the head dip thing. Because I think we recorded that at like 2 a.m. or something. When
did we ever not record something late at night back then?
I remember I was exhausted after that one Harrisburg Hall video. That sucked.
Was the second one, right?
Well, it'd be the one that was last uploaded because the one we filmed for this year still hasn't been uploaded yet.
It's lost.
I think that's officially not my responsibility anymore.
It is officially not your responsibility anymore. That is correct.
I made it.
I'm almost enjoying the part of just saying it's a piece of lost media, which has happened more than once with us.
Yeah. It's not even lost. Like, we know who has it. It just never got sent.
It just never got sent.
It'll get sent at some point, maybe.
Is that Spider-Man discussion video where you see us record it in like 3 separate locations?
I forgot about.
Oh my god!
Wait, wasn't someone wearing a Spider-Man costume in that?
I can't remember.
Someone was. I wasn't on it, but
you go and search for that Spider-Man discussion video. If you're watching this and made it this far, because I know you didn't, leave a comment saying if someone was in a Spider-Man costume in that video.
That was so bad. You kept getting kicked out of places. Like the last place, we got kicked out of like the one place because like it was
all in the same building. It was all in the HHD building on campus.
Yeah.
Fucking like Luke and Tina were like running around making noise.
Oh, memories.
Good times.
Speaking of memories, let's talk about the memories of reading this book, Black Hammer Justice League #1. Take it away, Mike.
Black Hammer Justice League Hammer of Justice.
Justice of Hammer?
Yeah, I really hope the next, if they do a sequel, it's Justice of Hammer.
Wait, stop. Is it Hammer time?
No.
You're welcome. I'll be here all week. Or conversely, I'll leave right now. I'd like sleep.
All right. So Jeff Lemire, Michael Walsh, I think Michael Walsh is the regular Black Hammer artist.
I think it's Dean Ormst or something like that.
Okay.
I don't.
The thing that's here is that I know Lemire in interviews hyping this up as he wants to make this be a meaningful crossover between companies, as this is Darkhorse and DC crossing over. Black Hammer being Jeff Lemire's creator-owned superhero universe, which is kind of his take on the DC a little bit because he's got like Dr. Star and that's Starman. He just did Black Hammer 45 or 42. I think it was 45. And and that had his version of the Blackhawks in it. So it's kind of his version of classic superheroes. Like there's clearly a Shazam, Captain Marvel archetype here, but we open with the characters of Black Hammer on this farm as they've been stranded here for 10 years and they're trying to get off it. And we intercept.
I'd like to interject real quickly. I believe none of us have actually read Black Hammer yet.
No, that's what I was going to say. I have not read Black Hammer before. I want to at some point.
I also haven't.
Why I'm not going to bother trying to remember character names.
Yep. I recently, I think, bought a few of the trades, so I'll probably be reading it soon. But if you're familiar with Black Hammer, you'll be in a much better place than we were for this.
But like I said, I think the coolest thing Lemire's going to try to do with this is that he says it wants it to matter. So this will fit chronologically somewhere in the Black Hammer universe and have an impact on it, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I think that'll be really cool to see happen.
But the characters of the Black Hammer universe have been stuck on this farm for 10 years, and they're approached by a man in a bowler hat with an offer. He wants to purchase this lovely farm of theirs. And then we cut to the Justice League fighting a Starro invasion in Metropolis. And Walsh's art on this Justice League sequence is breathtakingly beautiful. Oh my god,
it's such a great sequence.
I mean, the whole issue is great, but the Justice League action part is awesome. We cut back to the man in the bowler hat as it's shown that he has magic powers, and we see that the Justice League are also approached by the same man, and basically a time warp happens where these characters switch places. The Black Hammer characters are transported to Metropolis, so we're going through the whole, okay, where are we? That looks familiar, but that's definitely not where we're at, where they're pointing to the Daily Planet.
And I think the other
little girl who is, I guess, a 40-year-old girl. What? Go.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to interject real quick. Like you already mentioned, the Black Hammer people have been trapped on this farm for like a decade. When they get to Metropolis, they initially think that they're at Spiral City or something, which is where I think they've been trying to get to before, but it turns into a where are we kind of deal. Sorry, minor detail.
Yeah, and they have, I believe, that's a character, but instead of it, I think it's a 40-year-old woman trapped in a little girl's body, but she tries to say her magic word, which is Ephraim, and it doesn't work because I'm assuming the magic of the Black Hammer universe and the DC universe are different, which is why it didn't happen. But Starro's back in this universe, so the Black Hammer characters are going to have to deal with that. And then we cut to Clark Kent, who's now on this farm, and it mirrors the beginning of this book with the Black Hammer characters as he approaches Bruce Wayne, who's working on the machine, trying to get them off this farm. As and they've now been stuck there for 10 years. So we kind of got this crazy, kooky kind of time travel, alternate dimension story going on, and I'm very intrigued how this is going to play out. I thought this was really, really cool, and the big takeaway here is I want to definitely read Black Hammer from Lemire, I'm a big fan of Jeff Lemire's work, so I'm sure I will enjoy Black Hammer. But yeah, really enjoyed this. Dan, what did you think?
Yeah. Basically everything you just said.
Everything I said. All right.
I'm just gonna echo you on that. Just if you want my opinion, just go back 10 seconds and listen to Mike again.
Just rewind the video. I will say, very excited to see where this goes. I thought the art was great.
I will say the Black Hammer artist is Dean Ormston.
What will you say? Okay, so not the normal Black Hammer artist.
No, it's possible that Michael Walsh
was our segue into DC. I know he didn't do 45, but that was our branch into DC this week.
Oh well, he probably did something.
Sure, we're getting to DC now. With Batman 74, which was my pick of the week. It's the conclusion of The Fall and the Fallen with Tom King and Mikael Janin. Batman and Flashpoint Batman are fighting this gang of Ra's al Ghul assassins out in the desert. And Flashpoint Batman just up and stabs one right through the stomach, but somehow Bruce checks on him and he's like, yeah, I'll be fine. So they're kind of just dragging them through the rest of the desert as they approach this pit where they're going to lower the body of Martha Wayne into it, as Flashpoint Batman's grand plan is to resurrect Martha and become a family again, as he ultimately wants Bruce to give up being Batman.
Martha.
As he believes it's tainted him. This is all juxtaposed with a story that Thomas used to tell Bruce at night that scared Bruce about these animals trapped in a pit and how they would then soon eat each other. And it's kind of the takeaway I took from it is it's kind of the story of Batman, as Batman obviously is an endless cycle, but it's the hope. Bruce says the hope for it is that he always hoped that one of those animals was going to crawl out of the pit, and that something was going to be different, which I kind of took away as King writing it as Batman always was going to get up, or he was always going to try to hope for a change and a different outcome no matter what he could do. But as Bruce and Thomas Wayne lower themselves into the pit, that's when Bruce kind of reveals that he's fine now, and they start a huge fight with Flashpoint Batman in the pit. I thought Janen's art was great. We get sexy globetrotting Batman here with he's just wearing the cowl, no cape, so he's shirtless, with just the cowl on, fighting Flashpoint Batman, who's kind of in the desert garb that we saw earlier in the King's Run, which was a riff off of the Nightmare Batman desert garb from Batman v Superman. So I kind of saw this as kind of a little bit a clash between different looks here, as we have Bruce and the kind of the more classic Neil Adams, Dennis O'Neil desert garb that Batman had in like the 70s versus one now, which I thought was a little bit neat. I don't know if it's explicitly trying to be that, but I kind of took it that way. But Bruce throws Thomas into the coffin of Martha Wayne, where it's revealed that it was empty and filled with rocks. Where Bruce says, "Guess what? When you were sleeping, I buried her somewhere you were never going to find her. This isn't happening." And Bruce wins, and we see, and it echoes back all the way from I Am Bane, that you can beat down Batman, you can do what you want to him, but at the end of the day, he's still here, and he's climbing out of the pit to go fight Bane. As City of Bane will kick off next week in Batman 75, and those will be the final 10 issues for King's Batman before Batman Catwoman launches next year. I thought this was fantastic. I liked The Fall and the Fallen a lot. I liked Nightmares a lot. And there's a little bit of a theory you can take away here is we saw the beginning of this where Bruce was still kind of broken by what Bane and Thomas did, and what Thomas Wayne tried to do with the marriage was to show that Batman was weak, and that was to try to get him to give up being Batman. And that's something we saw all the way back in The Button, where that was Thomas's message to Bruce, was to stop being Batman. And that was kind of part of this grand plan. Obviously that's failed, but I kind of took this as Bruce was kind of faking all along to gain the upper hand on Thomas and let him gain confidence to win. And I thought that was kind of a very kind of cool Batman moment here. And then all the sequences in this, I've been outspoken as a big fan of Janen's art on Batman with King. I know some people have been critical of the art, not being a big fan of it, but I think he's knocked it out of the park every single time, going all the way back to War of Jokes and Riddles, especially the sequence, like the grid panel layouts and lighting from when they're lowering themselves on the rope into the pit, and then the sequence at the end with Batman climbing out, and the whole fight sequence I thought was great. But yeah, this was my pick of the week, as I thought King delivered a very kind of cool, epic Batman moment, signaling to the kind of crescendo to this very, very long Batman run that's going to end at issue 85. But then obviously pick up with Batman Catwoman, which will be the full finale. But Dan, what did you think?
Which Dan?
Well, only
Dan.
one of us.
Oh, okay, my bad. I thought you read Dan.
I didn't.
Yeah, I thought it was a good follow up to the issue before. A lot of build up with that issue. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm coming into this whole run, 74 issues late, but I do have the first few trades. I'm planning on reading the whole thing through. But yeah, this seems like a very important build up to the next storyline that's coming. And yeah, just like the whole dialogue, like you said, with Thomas Wayne about his about the story and everything. I thought that was really good. Like, that was constantly talked about and stuff like that. And it kind of drives home, Bruce's motivations to be Batman, like you said, and yeah, I feel like I'm missing a lot of like background details and stuff, but I think
like I said, you're in the kind of not quite finale, but yeah, this is like the third act of the movie here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like if I go back and reread everything, I feel like I'm gonna really appreciate this whole storyline a lot more, which I'm excited.
Are, as this has kind of mirrored a lot of the beginning of King's Run with I am Gotham, I am Suicide, I am Bane.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the kind of the Fall and the Fallen has kind of been picking all the pieces and like having it all come together.
Yeah.
Almost. Which is why I think if you've read the beginning of King's Run, this is such a satisfyingly good issue where you can kind of see where it's all starting to come together.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it ends.
And I'm excited because like we don't have to wait another week between. City of Bane starts next week.
That's good.
So I'm very excited to see how this is going to end. But let me know what happened in Batman and the Outsiders, #3.
Okay, so picking up from the last issue, Sophia is now in the care of Ra's al Ghul, and Batman is in Gotham talking to the other Outsiders, and he has decreed Black Lightning as the team leader. And
I feel like he's been team leader the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't see why any of them should be surprised. But Batman goes away, and they're like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "I'm going to the waterways. I'll meet you guys there in 3 hours." And then we pan over to Sophia, who is actually being dropped onto the tongue of a red dragon. Don't ask me why or how that is, but
it's that guy she was fighting that was kidnapping her. I guess he turned into that. That's what I took away from it.
Oh, Ishmael. Well, yeah. He's on the tongue though in the next shot. So
that's true. Yeah.
I guess he could be the dragon and the tongue. Or I
didn't notice they were standing in the tongue. I just noticed the dragon, and then I saw Ishmael. So
yeah, it's weird. We have Ra's al Ghul kind of talking to Sophia, telling her, this is your place. You need to help us. Kind of convincing her about everything. Again, this is something I don't really have a lot of backstory on, so Mike, feel free.
I think this is all still playing from Brian Hill's Detective Comics run.
Okay.
And I feel like if we were to go back and read that, a lot of the elements of this book would start to make sense, especially the part later in the book where Batman, who's dressed up as like this kind of Master Chief Halo Spartan looking guy, attacks the Outsiders in this test because Duke just freezes up, and I'm guessing that's something he faced in Hill's run on Tech. But yeah, I take it away. Dan.
So like you just said, we get a nice scene here where Batman dresses up, or Bruce dresses up as this mercenary type of guy fighting the Outsiders, training them so that the next time they go to face Ra's al Ghul, they'll be prepared. That's something he mentioned in the beginning of the issue. We're not going to focus on what we failed at. We're going to focus on how we can get better as a team. And in the meantime, Ra's al Ghul is giving Sophia this sword, I'm assuming to attempt to, take her place or something next to him.
I think the ultimate goal is Ra's wants her because she has those kind of resurrection powers, and as we know, Ra's doesn't want to die. So yeah. I think he basically is going to end up using her as a pawn. But at least that's the way I read it.
Yeah, and then the issue ends, I think, pretty much with Batman taking off the mask, saying how, finishing up the training. We get a moment with, I don't know, her name is Cass. I don't know who that is. Okay. Her and Black Lightning kind of hug it out. I'm assuming she says she needs help. I don't know what for, but I read this issue a few days ago, so it's kind of not sticking in my brain as much.
Well, like you said, I don't know what happened to Cassandra Cain recently, so I think we all have to go back and read Brian Hill's Detective Run because all those characters were involved in it.
It's
been a horrible way to kind of try to read this book because I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. So, I think at this point, Sophia's kind of under Ra's al Ghul's control, and we get a little flashback to a drone that lands down, and projects an image of Lex Luthor, and we have Ra's al Ghul talking to Lex Luthor. So I'm not sure what this is relating to, but
this is related to Year of the Villain. I've noticed a couple of DC books this week have Year of the Villain, the offer, plastered on top of it.
As well as a few last week.
Yeah. It has it here, and it has it on Hawkman, and it seems that like the ending page of each of these books are an offer that the newly like resurrected Lex Luthor makes to all the villains, I guess, to join his little army or something.
Neron.
Yeah.
I mean, like for me,
doing that again.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, I wasn't like the first issue kind of got me hooked a little bit, but I'm not really sure where I stand with this book right now. I mean, I'm not sure if this is a book I'll continue to read. It's just not really. I feel like there's just too much stuff that I'm missing out on that I just really don't know about. And
I fully agree with you.
Yeah,
I fully agree with you. I like Brian Hill. I'm liking his Angel run. I have to go back and read American Carnage. And I like Dexter Soy's art. I just think the book is too grounded in what he did on his tech run that it's not open enough to new readers. And it's sad because I like seeing Cassandra Cain. I like Duke. I like Black Lightning. So I want to see all of them here, but it's hard to keep up with this book when it's so hard to figuring out what, like personally, what's going on with all of them.
exactly.
And then having the main story be this Ra's al Ghul story, which for 3 issues hasn't been that interesting, has kind of definitely set it back. And I don't know if I'm going to stick with this past the first arc. I'm going to give it at least to the end of the first arc.
Oh yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I might as well just see it through at this point. I'm already halfway through it, so.
But I do think it's a detriment to it, as I think we have King's Batman who's entering its crescendo, and I've been outspoken of how much I love that run. And then we've been liking Tomasi and Detective. So this is kind of like this relegated third Batman book that it's not as good as Detective or Batman, but it's trying to do something else where it's supposed to be this team book. And really, Batman's not in it a lot, which is what I like. It should be more of an outsider's book, which I think they're still trying to get to that point. But after 3 issues, I'm like, okay, let's get there.
Yeah, let's get rid of Batman and let's just focus on these characters. So.
But Ginger Dan, close us out in this Batman corner with Detective Comics 1007.
No problem. So Batman was real busy this week. He's in 3 whole books.
Hey, it doesn't need to make sense.
No, of course not. Comics, who cares? But yep. So this is Detective Comics 1007, written by Peter Tomasi, drawn by Kyle Hotz, who I'm just gonna say it now. Amazing art, really fits the story.
We talked about it last week.
I know you guys did, but I just want you need to reiterate.
But no, we do, because this issue's great.
And colored by David Barron. So picking up right where we left off last week. Jim Corrigan separated from the Spectre under he's being held captive by the cult of the Divine Hand.
Yes.
And culty stuff is happening. We switch to Bruce Wayne back in the Batcave, doing some actual detective work, which I really love to see. I really love it when Batman is actually doing like real detective stuff and it makes sense, and it's so nice to see it here.
Especially in Detective Comics.
Yes. He's using some like nifty hologram projector thing where he can like selectively just take out people. It kind of reminded me of Arkham Origins a little bit, but it's very different in scope, you could say. The Spectre shows up and takes over the T-Rex that he keeps around in a really goddamn cool splash page.
Yeah.
And Spectre proceeds to talk through the T-Rex for a little bit. Just because why not? Before Bruce is finally just like, just stop, dude. Spectre gives a really cool origin to the Spectre and Jim Corrigan in general. kind of gives a brief splash page recap of how they came to be. But the interesting thing there is he makes Bruce Wayne experience it, so he understands why the Spectre is so intent on getting back to Jim Corrigan. Bruce Wayne agrees to help him, but so long as he doesn't kill, because that's Batman's whole thing. And the Spectre is pretty much just like, I am vengeance. Bruce Wayne stares him down and is like, all right, fine, but if they force me, I'm going to kill him. From there, Bruce Wayne chastises the Spectre for ruining a crime scene, does some more detective work. Again, love to see it. They go back to... Huh?
I said I love the Spectre's smoke effects when he enters a room.
Oh, it's awesome, especially in this scene where Batman takes use of the Spectre smoke effects to scare the drunk tank of a police precinct. And specifically... honestly, it's really terrifying if you actually think about it, especially considering the guy that came to see Walker, I imagine, is in there because of them from last issue. Right. Eventually, some more detective work happens after Spectre and Batman go to the guy's apartment. Batman finds a splinter on the guy's shoe, and it tells him it is a wood saturated with wax and candle smoke. It's made of oak, and it's from about 1813. And Batman immediately knows that it is the Grace Church, which was built in 1813.
I thought, but hey, that was cool.
Again, you love to see him do detective work. I don't care if it's a little, there's some suspension of disbelief. It's really cool to see that.
Oh, yeah, just pulling shit out of his ass. But anyway.
It's kind of there.
Listen, Batman knows his city.
Yeah, he knows the city, if nothing else. And sometimes other cities, if he has to. Don't think too much into it. Spectre and Batman start to fight the Cult of the Divine Hand. Eventually, they free Jim Corrigan. Let's see what happens from here. The whole building gets set on fire, and Spectre basically rescues a guy because he promised Batman not going to kill anyone. And from there, it ends. Batman does not want Jim Corrigan in his city, and Jim Corrigan's like, yeah, me neither. And that's the end of this little 2-issue arc. And just one of the things I do want to say, it's nice to see like a short arc these days. A lot of times, writers are more geared writing towards the trade as you will, and have like these longer, like decompressed, like 6-7 issue story arcs. And it's just kind of nice to see like a 2-issue arc every once in a while. Just something very self-contained, very short. And honestly, I don't see anything wrong with that, because that way you can just have this thrown in on any trade, or maybe if this trend continues and there's a lot more like 2-3 issue story arcs, then there's just a couple of arcs per book, and nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with all. That's kind of how the beginning of Rebirth was too, with Superman, when Tomasi was writing that. Like Frankenstein showed up for 2 issues, and then like we did a multiversity thing for 4 issues. Like, and what's teased at the end of this is Joker's coming to town, so we're gonna get to see Tomasi's Joker again, which I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I thought it was cool to see the Spectre for 2 issues. A character not really used anymore. I don't think he properly even really showed up in the New 52. I think he was one of the Trinity of Sin, but it wasn't like the Spectre we actually knew and cared about. But yeah, I liked this a lot. Kyle Hotz's art was great. We've had 3 artists now on Tomasi's tech run, and they've all been fantastic. So the book continuously looks great, even if the artist changes every arc. But I like that though, because they all, even though I feel like they're all different enough from each other, but they all kind of look similar. So it's not a wildly different look each arc. But one thing, I do think Batman's ears are getting larger with every single artist that's coming on. I thought like Doug Mankey draws like normal sized ears, and then Brad Walker came on, they were a little higher, and now Kyle Hotz's arts are like bordering on Kelly Jones level height. in some panels. But that's my only takeaway from the art here. So if we have another art issue and they're even higher, then I'm starting to think there's something going on here.
Just remember, Mike, we can only go up from here.
That's true.
Yeah. Just a quick last thing to note on here. Somewhere in the scene when they're in the church, it's interesting. Or no, I think it might have been when they were interrogating the guy. Yeah, it was when they were interrogating the guy in the jail cell. And Batman kind of ends up playing good cop because he's paired with a Spectre. And like he comments on that himself. He's like, it's kind of weird being the good cop. And I just thought that was like a funny little scene.
Yeah, and that worked really well. And we've seen kind of like these humorous scenes before so far in Tomasi's run. He gets humor with Batman very, very well. Which definitely brightens the mood a lot in these, especially this dark story with like the Spectre and this evil cult who's like savagely killing people in dark alleys. But yeah, still enjoy this. Really, really enjoy Detective with Tomasi. Really can't go wrong by him right now. I think he's kind of all become one of our more fan favorite writers.
Yep.
Danny Mac, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, like, just following up on the stuff from the storyline before this, the Arkham Knight stuff, right? That was in Detective, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a story before this one.
Yeah, so just following up on that, this is probably my first stuff I've ever read of Tomasi, and I'm really, really digging it. So really, we'll probably be going through and seeing what other stuff he's written for DC.
He has a great long run on Green Lantern Corps. He wrote Batman and Robin in the New 52. And he wrote
also very good.
Very good. That was Bruce and Damian in that book, and he was the start of Rebirth Superman until Bendis came on the book.
I actually have the first trade of Batman and Robin. Vince gave it to me, so maybe I'll read that soon. We'll see.
I think you'll like it. Because we saw his voice for Bruce and Damian in that, and it's fleshed out a lot in that series.
Cool.
But back to Bendis, the man who stole Superman from Tomasi, some say.
Conspiracy theories, let them fly.
I feel like he was really kicked off that book, though. But I'm at least enjoying action. And this does spin out of the Superman in Action Comics. Event Leviathan #2 by Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev. On the corner box, it is a 6-issue mystery thriller. This is On the Case. The last issue left off. I liked it, but was a little bit underwhelmed as I didn't think enough plot moved forward. But we did assemble this kind of team of detectives to figure out what is Leviathan, what are they trying to do, where are they going to strike next, as we've seen them systematically take out all of like the kind of super intelligence agencies in the DC universe. So no more Argus, no more Cobra Clan, nothing. All of those kind of no more Checkmate. All those have been like disabled and taken out systematically by this Leviathan person and the organization, as they're also trying to figure out where Talia al Ghul go. This issue opens up with Red Hood, Jason Todd talking to Batman. They're giving each other the rundown of the facts of what's happened so far. And then they're asking about what happened with Sam Lane. We saw Sam Lane have a heart attack back in Action Comics, so he's been in a hospital room since. But the Question was doing some sleuthing in there and saw that there was an assassin that was going to come for Sam Lane. And I don't know if this was supposed to be Guardian or not. I thought this was like a new look for Guardian at first, but it wasn't. This was kind of a Leviathan soldier who was sent to kill Sam Lane, who gets into a fight with the Question, but Sam Lane just shoots the assassin right in the head from the hospital bed, and I like that moment a lot. And the Question has to like get out and escape, but he steals the body to study it later. So we head back to, and then that's where Plastic Man takes over, where he's trying to perform an autopsy and get some information, as then he's confronted by this mysterious Leviathan person who makes him an offer. And we saw in the Year of the Villain 25-cent one-shot where they referenced the attack that Green Arrow and Batgirl had which I guess this happened before this now in the chronological where that story took place. But Batgirl accepted the offer with Leviathan, and we haven't seen her since. We saw that Plastic Man did not accept the offer, and he was kind of like left kind of bewildered as the Leviathan person disappeared away. But looking at all the facts of what's gone on in this case so far, Batman accuses Jason Todd of being Leviathan, and out from behind him pops kind of this detective team that's popped in. So we have Kate Spencer Manhunter, the Question, Vic Sage Question, as we saw in Lois Lane, that name Montoya Question's back. She's not in this. Plastic Man, Damian, Green Arrow, and Lois Lane are all confronting Red Hood, and we end with them jumping off a rooftop with a chase starting. I enjoyed this a lot. Still a little bit slow, but Bendis and Lee are doing work here, man. This is really kind of a fun detective story to figure out what's going on and who's behind all of these attacks that have been leading up through Action Comics. And I thought Lee's art was really, really good. He does a great Batman. But I think the best sequence in the book was definitely the sequence with the Question and Sam Lane and the assassin in the hospital room. That was probably one of my favorite sequence of pages this week. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You know, for me, a lot of these characters I'm reading of for the first time, and like you said, I mean, this has kind of piqued my interest a little bit in the Question, as well as what's his name again? Is it Plastic Man?
Yeah, Plastic Man.
Yeah, I really like his attitude. It's really funny and kind of humorous, and yeah, I mean, Bendis and Malieve have a really good chemistry, and like you said, I love the ending. You know, them finding out that it's him, and then all of them just chasing.
Well, they don't know that it's him. That's the
thing.
They
don't.
Yeah, Jason just runs.
Oh, he just runs. Okay, yeah. So that's like you don't know what's going to happen next, and you kind of like you said, the first two were pretty slow, and this is the third issue, right?
This is the second issue.
Oh, it's the second issue. Okay, yeah. The first issue was really slow. It's kind of a lot of setup, but this one really.
We had the. You might have confused it with the Superman Leviathan Strikes, like that super special.
Oh yeah, that's right. My bad.
That led into this.
Mm-hmm.
But no. I think what's even also good about this is we're seeing Bendis take even more characters in the DC universe writing for the first time, and his voices are still very good for them. Like I enjoyed his Plastic Man a lot here, and this is to my knowledge, the first time he's written Plastic Man. So he was a Marvel guy for a really long time, but hey, the man, just because he was Marvel doesn't mean he wasn't paying attention. Like, clearly knows and is well versed in these DC characters because all the voices, for the most part, are correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to see where this goes. Especially like you said, the Bendis Malieve team is always usually good in what they deliver.
Yep.
What happened in the Flash this week?
So in the Flash, we get to chapter 5 of the year 1 storyline with Flash, and you know, just kind of picking up from the last few storylines. You know, Iris and Barry, right?
Yeah, that's Barry.
Yeah, my bad. Okay, it's been a while since I read an issue of this. They're hanging out in Central City, and surprise, surprise, the Turtle comes through a portal from time, dragging along a older version of Flash in chains. And the younger Flash is like, or younger Barry is like, what are we gonna do? And Iris is like, I'm going after the story. I'm gonna go write about what's going on, figure out what it is. And you know, we see a little bit of hesitation in Barry, and you know, he's kind of thinking about like, why do I have hesitation in this? You know, she's so quick to just go and do what she has to do, and I'm like hesitating. So we get a fight with Barry in this like quasi Flash suit. It's not fully the real suit that we all know yet, but
well, we'll get there.
We are. That's why I said it, because we're getting there towards the end there. But he gets his ass handed to him. But he ends up actually saving the older version of Barry and taking him back to this area to kind of talk about what's happening. And pretty much like the way it happened, I guess, is the turtle opened up like a multiverse like portal that like is dragging the present with the future, or the future with the present. And the only way that this can be completed is if he harnesses all the speed from the Flash. And the fact that he's from the future, he knows every single scheme and plan and tactic that the Flash will roll out. So the older Flash is telling him, look, there's really not much you can do here. We get some good moments though, where the old Flash is kind of looking through the old comics of the Flash. So it's kind of still sticking with that whole crisis, multiverse world type of thing, where the comics exist in this universe where there is a Flash. We also cut to Iris trying to break in, trying to figure out what's going on with these guys who have invaded Central City. She ends up getting captured. And then we pan back to the Flash, who, thinks about Iris, and, he understands that like him, even though there's no hope that he can possibly destroy the turtle, he still has to try. And, obviously he's inspired by Iris's, dedication to help out. And we get some pretty good sequences of him developing the ring that will eventually dispense his actual costume that we've waited 5 issues to see. And yeah, so he ends up finding the turtle at an outpost, and we get a cool splash page of the actual full Flash suit, which is awesome to see.
This is where I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
You know what made this splash page made me smile ear to ear this week?
What is it?
There were no lines on the suit.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Which means Flash Year 1, so Joshua Williamson better answer why he put lines on that goddamn suit. Because that's right here. That's how it should always look, unless it's Wally West and he has white eye slits like Batman on his suit.
Yeah.
That's how the suit should look. It should not have weird, stupid yellow energy lines all over it. Look how crisp and clean that looks. Stop messing with that design. It's a beautiful Carmine Infantino design from the 50s. Stop messing with it.
It's like one of those things with like Daredevil. Like Daredevil's suit hasn't changed in years either. Like even to the
Daredevil changes to the suit is they made it black twice and it's stupid.
Exactly.
Armor, or like they added Jack Murdoch's boxers to the outside of the suit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's just some things that you don't mess with. Like, exactly. But overall, this is a really good issue. The end of it ends with the Flash confronting the older turtle and finding out that the older turtle is actually teamed up with the turtle from the modern day. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, I'm really liking this series. I was introduced to the Flash about a year ago when we started our Crisis Cast. Go check that out. We started.
Yeah, that's an indefinite. That shows in a crisis in itself, because I don't know.
Crisis on Crisis Cast.
See, we just had to really commit to the bit on that one.
Yeah, definitely. But no, this is really good. I like where this whole story is going, and
I agree. Yeah, I like it a lot. It like Vince and I have said, year 1, this is not. This is clearly just another story in Williamson's run, but it does play with the origins of the Flash and Barry Allen. I do really like the pacing of this a lot. I like we finally get the costume. I like Barry confronting old Barry and basically saying, "No, I'm not gonna sit here and do nothing. I'm gonna go out there and try to stop this." And finally, we get the full Flash costume. We've hit the ground running. Ha 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 ha! I made another stupid pun, and I didn't mean to do it. And I'm thinking, is the next issue going to be the end of it? Because that'll be the 6 issues. So I think it might be the end.
I think it is.
So I'm very intrigued to see how this all turns out, especially with the added addition of the future Barry Allen, the future Turtle. I love the inclusion of Flash comics with Jake Garrick in there, because that was always one of my favorite staples, is that Barry Allen got his name from from Jay Garrick, and then with Earth 2 inclusion and all that. I like the multiverse stuff in here. I like the sequence with the ring was beautiful. The splash page that Howard Porter gave us of the actual Flash costume. I wish he could actually just draw that suit always instead of this stupid lined atrocity with electricity running through it. Yeah, this was great. And going over to Hawkman.
All right. So this is Hawkman.
So you get to play the part of Vince for this because Vince started reading Hawkman, and we didn't follow along in this journey.
All right, I'm going to do my best. I have not read any Hawkman of the first 1 to 13 issues. This is issue 14. Luckily, this is the start of something new. So this is, like I said, issue 14. It is a Year of the Villain tie-in to the offer. Spoilers, but you already knew it. Lex Luthor shows up later. We talked about it earlier. This is When Strikes the Shadow Thief. So we get classic Hawkman villain Shadow Thief showing up. At the start here, Carter is having some dream. He's also kind of monologuing about like living his dreaming, but he's lived so many lives, he just has nightmares or something. He's in a giant room with just a pile of bodies, and then he wakes up. He starts writing it down. He goes out and talks to this guy, Hami, who I'm assuming has been a supporting character already. Carter's in Kenya. Again, I haven't read any of this series prior to this, and I assume this all makes sense if you have been. But Carter's doing basically some archaeological stuff, which is nice to see. He goes to the nearby Mount Kenya to go into this room that only opens, and this is a quote here, when the shadows fall just right, so kind of playing into the whole Shadow Thief is going to pop up. He lights this fire. There's some like cave paintings on the walls and a statue that's in the middle, an effigy, and it's supposed to like make whoever looks at it like more tranquil and stuff like that. He muses that it'd be a really good collection for his museum, but he, I believe, decides to leave it there. And we have an amazing 3-panel sequence where Carter's just sitting on the ground and his shadow's falling behind him because of the fire he lit. And on the 3rd panel, shadow starts to move. And obviously Shadow Thief grabs his mace and whacks him over the head with it. And then get another really cool fight sequence where he's fighting Shadow Thief, but he's really just fighting the shadows itself. And we find out eventually that it is Shadow Thief he's fighting. Shadow Thief talks about how someone made him an offer and that he accepted. And he has a, quote, new bag of tricks. So Carter's fighting multiple shadows, kind of getting his ass handed to him. And Shadow Thief leaves the fight by stealing Carter's shadow and leaving him in this burning cave. And it's kind of cool, not gonna lie. And then and then we get the epilogue, which ties into with Year of the Villain, where the little Legion of Doom looking drone goes to Midway City, finds the Shadow Thief. Lex Luthor comes up and he makes him an offer, technological enhancements, Neuron stuff. Next is Darkness Spreads, so I'm assuming we're going to be seeing a bit more of Shadow Thief in the future, which is always nice.
And, all right, would you stick with it?
Huh?
Sticking with it?
I would definitely stick with it. I also just do like Hawkman in general, but I thought this was well written and nicely drawn.
Yeah, I want to say I like Hawkman, or I guess I mind Hawkman. I've never really been. I know Vince he custom bound multiple Hawkman books, and I'm not gonna try to say which ones he did.
I know he did Hawk World.
Yeah, I know he did Hawk
Tim Truman, and then eventually Ostrander, which I have plans to eventually find those issues as well and custom bind, because I read the original miniseries of Hawk World by Tim Truman recently, and real good stuff.
And I know he's a big Hawkman fan, and he can sit here and detail his stupidly convoluted backstory.
I just love I always think of in the original Young Justice series, there's a little throwaway panel where Red Tornado is like, "Oh yeah, I keep files on all like heroes and villains and stuff. Like 19 of them are Hawkman alone." And it's just a funny fucking throwaway line that actually is like kind of close to being true.
Well, there you have it. But yeah, I've always enjoyed him on team books. I do have to eventually get around to reading the solo stuff. I want to get around to reading the Jeff Johns run, which I think kind of tried to streamline him a little bit. But I do want to go back and read the Austrian stuff.
Yeah, and I believe Jeff Johns' run went back to the more Golden Age version of the Hawkman, if I remember correctly. Whereas Ostrander is obviously a product came out in the, I believe, late 80s, early 90s. So it's a bit more in line with the Silver Age, he's an alien thing, but it's still good. Also, his Silver Age stories are a goddamn treat. He can talk to
I think one of our early retro books on the show was a Hawkman issue. I think it was like 47 or something by Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray. So that was interesting.
I don't remember where that fits in.
That was after Johns.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. Yep.
But back to Brian Michael Bendis, but this time co-writing with David F. Walker, Jamal Campbell still on art. This is the end of Naomi season 1, I guess, or Naomi 1, because they teased Naomi 2. So I'm going to call it Naomi season 1. This is Naomi number 6 from the Wonder Comics line. This cover shows Naomi standing alongside the rest of the DC universe, alongside Young Justice. That doesn't happen in this issue. And Vince and I have been very critical of nothing happens in this book. I feel, and I'm confident to say I'm agreeing with him after this. There's the big revelation here is that Naomi was taken into a portal she visits her home world for like 5 seconds and it's all destroyed, and she then fights the being that killed her parents, but then like a friend of her parents pulls her out and she punches the killer of her parents away and beats him for now. And then she's whisked away back to Earth. And then it's her parents and Dee, who are the Rainian and the Thanagarian that were on Earth, are like, all right, well, show us what you can do. And that's the end. Like, I'm not sure. Like, that's what happened in this issue. She used her powers. She confronted her parents' killer. She beat him and sent him away. We don't really know about how her powers work at all. We don't know where they come from. I thought it was going to be from the white light energy from like Brightest Day, because the symbol kind of looks similar, but no, it's not that at all. So strike me, I was wrong on that one. I don't like. I feel like 3 issues of this, like this, everything that happened in 6 issues here could have been condensed down to 3, like to actually move a plot along. So, and if Naomi 2 is going to be 6 issues, and this is going to be like that again, I'm going to stick with it because I just want to know where this is going. Because I think they're trying to set her up with being this bigger factor character in the DC universe. But I feel like just stick her on Young Justice so we can actually get to learn more about her faster than this crawling manner that we are now. Oh my God. Like, and I feel bad for Jamal Campbell. The art's fantastic, but like nothing happens here. We do find out Naomi's last name though, which is McDuffie, which I think is in paying tribute to Dwayne McDuffie. But so there you have it. There's season 1 of Naomi. What was the point? I don't know, because I'm going to have to read a whole other book to find out. Which, continuing in I'm guessing next year or later on, I think some of these, I think all of the Wonder Comics books that weren't Young Justice were slated for 6 issues. And they all sold well, so they've been granted another 6 issues. We've seen that with Wonder Twins, with this, and with Dial H for Hero. And then Amethyst is coming eventually, Bendis has said on Twitter. So, but the difference here with Naomi is that the plot is such a slow-moving crawl. Nothing happened. There wasn't even if this is supposed to be a superhero origin story, it doesn't even really follow that archetype of a superhero origin story. And I want to like this book. I liked the first 3 issues more than Vince did. Vince has already told me, he's like, I'm not sticking with this. We'll see if he actually does. But because I don't want to speak entirely for him. But no, I completely get where he's coming from. And I don't think anyone's bringing up this criticism enough when talking about this book. It's been a lot of praise. And I think the blueprint for something good is there. But honestly, not enough happens for anything to move along plot-wise. This whole, if you were to look at this as a TV show, these 6 issues, if they're supposed to each be an episode of a show, and you watched this would be awful. Because nothing would have happened. This feels like it could have, like I said, could have been 3 issues, and I'm guessing if Naomi 2 is 6 issues, then that could have also been 3 issues. So Naomi 1, Naomi 2 easily could have just been 6 issues altogether. That's my prediction for where we're going to with this. But still, like I said, Jamal Campbell is fantastic. We'll see what happens with Naomi and Naomi 2. I think the end goal is that she will eventually join Young Justice, though. But that's Naomi number 6. That wraps up season 1 of Naomi. And wrapping up the first batch of issues on another Wonder Comics book. We're closing out with 3 Wonder Comics books at DC, by the way. That's just the way it worked out since we go in alphabetical order. Is Wonder Twins number 6 from Mark Russell and Byrne still on art. Not John Byrne, of course.
No.
That'd be insane.
I read that book.
I mean,
seems
listen,
like a guy that would have drawn Wonder Twins at some point in his career.
He probably has.
Exactly.
Did they not list his credits? I talked about 6 issues of this book. Why can't I remember the man's first name?
It's like,
but
I want to say Steve.
Steve Byrne?
I don't know. It sounds right to me for some strange reason. The credits might be at the end or something. Or they have to be there somewhere.
They weren't. I was looking for them. But the Great Scramble is coming as the Scrambler has taken over all the computer screens in the world, and he gives the world 30 days to try to sort out their problems to stop them. They have 30 days to try to stop the Scrambler from the Great Scramble. And what will happen is all your minds are going to get scrambled. So you're going to wake up one day and you might be you're going to be someone completely different. So your family's all going to be different, and this gets the politicians scrambling. So we cut to the White House, and with only Mark Russell humor he can, he's kind of ordering his right hand man around, where it's every leader's worst nightmare. They're going to have to become normal people. So what has happened here is the Scrambler and Polymath have kind of hyper accelerated anything worthwhile to get done political wise, where all these world leaders are making peace with each other, and they're trying to get laws passed, because if the Great Scramble's coming, we're all going to wake up as someone else the next day, and we're not going to be the president of the United States anymore. So it takes this world catastrophe for the world to come together to make it a better place, is the overall message that Mark Russell puts here, which is Mark Russell doing his Mark Russell-like thing of showing that kind of with his weird take on political commentary. We get it, and then because Lex Luthor owns everything in this book, we get a great ad with Lex Luthor talking on a beach with, he goes, "Hi, I'm Lex Luthor. Right now, you're probably all asking yourselves the same question. What if my wife is an Australian man tomorrow?" So, and then he advertises a new service for families to stay connected with a connected password to let each other know who you ended up being the next day. And because he's Lex Luthor, he completely just takes off in a jet. So he's in a jet to space. So he's not going to be affected by the Great Scramble at all.
Is that how that works?
Sure, I think so, because the Great Scramble only affects Earth.
The
Wonder Twins.
It sounds exactly right to me.
Because they're hiding, because they know where the Scrambler and Polymath are. They're at Polymath's house. But the Wonder Twins are wondering, well, we've been kicked off our planet. The supercomputer in the Justice League is frowning. That's sad, and they're even talking about leaving behind Gleek, who was their monkey they've adopted. But they're gonna give it one last try, and they go talk with Polly, and she shoots them down as before that reason of no, things are actually going to change because of what we've done. But at the last minute, the Justice League has found Polymath and the Scrambler, and they've taken them both into custody, all due to the fact that Zan, when transforming into his form of water, was able to spread his water molecules around and go all over the Earth through like faucets and drains and sewers everywhere. So that's where he was able to find their hideout, and that was kind of like they're showing to the Justice League for why they were able to find them so fast. Gina tries to apologize for Polymath, but she says they're no longer friends. So I'm hinting that Mark Russell's going to bring her back as a villain later in the future. Zan gets made Employee of the Month in the Hall of Justice. And Polymath, by the way, is sent to Prison Kids, KIDZ, which is a subsidiary of Lexicon Prisons. But at the 11th hour, like I said, all these new laws that were going to make the Earth a better place, and countries in a better place got completely thrown out at the last minute. So we get this very hilarious scene of this lawyer who is about to go, yeah, this is all going to go. Like, exhausted, his like ties around. He's got a 5 o'clock shadow. His hair's unkempt. Like, all I need is my signature. And you get the call that, no, the Justice League stopped it. It's going to be okay. But we get a hint with the Scrambler asking for an email instead of his one phone call. So I'm imagining there's going to be a hint of the Scrambler is going to come back. I enjoyed this series a lot. I can't wait to see what Russell and Byrne have in store for the next batch of books for the Wonder Twins. I think this was an absolute sleeper hit. I did not expect. By the way, it was Stephen Byrne. I apologize because I talked about this for 6 issues and I couldn't remember.
That was right. Aha.
Know the artist's name. But I thought this was absolutely fantastic and fun. It's disguised into what I thought was going to be Mark Russell doing kind of a more all ages garnered book, but no, this wasn't at all. You can read it like a kid can read this and I think find the fun and the hijinks of it. But if you're older, you'll get that Mark Russell commentary that he's kind of become to be known for. And I implore everyone to read this. This was a really, really fun book. And it will return in September with the next 6 issues, and then we'll see if it goes past 12. If Mark Russell and Stephen Byrne can get a Wonder Twins book to go past 6 issues and then past 12 issues, that'll be amazing. But for now, if these 6 issues were great, and I can't wait for the next 6. This was a really, really fun book. So they get a well-deserved little bit of a break before it comes back in September. But Ginger Dan, close us out with the last Wonder Comics book and the last DC book this week, Young Justice.
If you've made it this far, find me in real life. I'll give you a cookie or something. This is impressive.
Did we do a 3-hour show?
We're about to do a really close to a 3-hour show.
We had 22 books to get through.
I want to die.
All right, let's finish it out before we start talking statistics. So we have Young Justice, number 7. This is Lost in the Multiverse, Part 1. Written by Brian Michael Bendis, drawn by John Timms, Dan Hipp, and David LaFuente, with colors by Gabe Eltaeb and Hipp. The reason there's multiple artists and colorists is because since they're lost in the multiverse, we're kind of visiting different worlds. The reason they're lost in the multiverse is they were in Gem World before this, I believe, and they kind of just didn't go to the right place. So, first place they end up is this kind of chibi world. They are immediately greeted by the Justice League, and Cyborg's trying to do anything. Impulse is just like, oh my god, they're so cute, I'm going to eat them. Just Impulse stuff, really. And they eventually move. They find out that it wasn't Cyborg that moved them, it just kind of happened. And at this point, we are in the universe where Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew is the superheroes, which is really nice to see them. Captain Carrot also specifically drops the multiversity because he mentions Superman to Robin. He calls it the multiverse-thirsty because, well, I guess rabbits don't talk very well. Luckily, the Zoo Crew has a giant wooden mallet that can, it's called the multiversal mallet, and it moves people through the multiverse. Don't think too hard. They don't smash them with it like I honestly thought was going to happen.
I thought that was what's going to happen as well.
Throwback to the throwback issue last week when Thor was fighting the Juggernaut. It's the same kind of deal. It's just a beam.
It's true.
Yeah. And then, so after these two fairly quick multiverse jaunts, they finally see the Hall of Justice. And this is also the, spoiler, they're not home yet. This is where we're going to spend the rest of this issue. So they find the Hall of Justice, and they start flying around trying to figure out where they are. And eventually they settle on top of a rooftop and get confronted by the heroes of this world. And we find out that they're in Kingdom Come's world, which is really, really cool to see.
It's the second time that we've seen it recently, as the Kingdom Come characters were in Justice League when they went to the House of Heroes.
Yep.
But, Captain Carrot was there too.
Nice. But yep. Superman in this world is kind of disappointed in Superboy. It's pretty fun. You know
that he's a clone of Lex Luthor and himself.
The exchange where he explains that is really funny because who is it? The Green Lantern from Kingdom Come World was just like, "Can you say that again? I really want to get this on video."
Yeah,
and it's really interesting. I've been reading the Young Justice by Peter David trades that have been coming out recently, and just reading this one issue, it seems to be very similar to that, like almost surprisingly so, that a lot of these characters are kind of like written with almost with the same voice as they were back then, and it's really nice to see that. And then the Kingdom Come superheroes are written kind of like you would expect Kingdom Come to be, but like they still sometimes have humor like you come to expect from a Young Justice book, where sometimes adults act like kids, and it's something you really only get in here, but it's nice. And eventually the sons and daughters of the Bat drop out of the sky, and there's kind of a team up. It's pretty cool. So after that, they take them to their world's Dr. Fate, where he has a multiverse map, very conveniently, and sends them home. Dr. Fate is kind of a delight in this sequence, in my opinion. His dialogue to me is kind of funny. Like, he's just like, honestly, I'm thrilled to have visitors.
Yeah.
It's really funny to me. So he sends that back. Eventually, Green Lantern is impressed by Teen Lantern, which had been kind of a side thing going through that. It seems that Superman and Superboy kind of have a mutual respect at this point, which is also nice to see. And then after they get sent, Dr. Fate just goes, "Oh, I forgot to carry the 2." And he just goes on for like a page saying, is like, "Oh, I calculated their place of origin being here, not their place. That one's on me. I blew that completely. I feel bad." That is actual dialogue from him. And like I said earlier, he is just a delight. Like going on to say, like, I sent them to the wrong Earth. Or the wrong one for them. There isn't really a wrong Earth. There's just Earths. And the entire like Justice League's behind him, just like, "God damn it, Fate, go fix this." And he's like, "I have to wait 52 hours. I don't make the rules. Just 52 hours.
Yep.
And so with that, we get a splash or a full page to tease that next is the worst Earth. The absolute worst one. It's not even close. And as far as I can tell, there's nothing in the page itself to really kind of give a hint as to what that Earth could be. But interesting to see where it's going to go. kind of interested in this arc in general because it's always fun to see the different universes of the multiverse. So I think it'll be cool to see where they all end up going and what universes they end up seeing and what they do there. Hopefully they don't spend more than an issue or two on any single Earth, but we'll see how it plays out.
Right. And I enjoyed this a lot. It was really, really fun, and that's what this book has been so far.
Mm-hmm.
And for me at least, it's still fun to see these old characters that were forgotten again, get their own book and get their own highlights for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm enjoying the new characters too. They haven't been fully fleshed out yet, but I like Teen Lantern. I think Ginny Hex. I'm liking Ginny Hex a lot more than what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But she's got like this magic trunk, and the truck of her magic truck. So I'm imagining we're going to find out what that is soon, and why it's going to play a
and
kind of a plot point.
We did have a bit of a tease in here where Fate looks into it, and I believe he says just like, yeah, you're going to get off my Earth now. I don't want to deal with this.
He's like, yeah, this shouldn't be here.
Yep.
But it's kind of weird how like Bendis is. We have 3 different books written by Bendis, at least all partially written by Bendis, and how well he's able to juggle 3 different kind of genres, all at the same time. We have this dark kind of corners investigative crime, like whodunit mystery story with Event Leviathan. We have this coming of age hero tale with him and David F. Walker on Naomi, and then we have this throwback, fun, wacky, zany adventure book with Young Justice, and he captures it all very well. And I think it's very commendable to him that he's able to do that all at the same time. And then he's also writing Action Comics and Superman all right now. So if you're keeping track, for those of still watching at home, he's writing Young Justice, Event Leviathan, Superman, Action Comics, and then co-writing Naomi with David F. Walker. So he's like 4.5 books he's doing. That's crazy for someone right now. Mm-hmm. Normally he wouldn't extend himself past 3, but yeah, this is insane. And like all the books have been good for the most part. But yeah, still enjoying Young Justice, and if we have nothing else to say, I do have a message from Vince.
Okay.
Oh God, we heard from him.
Number-generated book. He did run the RNG, but he's left it up to our choice of what we want to pick. So, Ginger Dan, I think you're sticking around for next week.
I should.
Though, if not, I'm still counting your vote. So, if you're curious what the RNG was, it is December of 2016 Marvel. And he's given us the choice of Venom Space Knight number 13, which is the last solo Agent Venom issue, or Astonishing Ant-Man number 13, which is the last Nick Spencer Ant-Man issue.
Ooh, that's rough, because Astonishing Ant-Man is really good, and that issue was also pretty good, but I also read that like less than a month ago.
I haven't read that series yet, and I don't want to just... So if we pick that one, I'm going to end up reading that whole Epic collection this weekend.
Yeah, and that's pretty hefty, because there's technically 2 different series in there.
Yeah. So what do you guys want to... What do you... There's 3 of us, so there has to be a winner, because there's only 2 choices. So what do you guys choose?
I'm going to go for Venom. So I think Ant-Man is the better book, but like I said, I read it way too recently.
Okay. Danny Mac.
I am the exact same, actually, because I also do have the Nick Spencer Ant-Man Complete Collection, so I don't want to read an issue of that and then have to read it all because I just read like half of it or one issue.
At the very end of the book.
Exactly. Like that's
Same thing goes with me. I'm choosing Venom Space Knight number 13 for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. That's our show this week.
Yeah.
I guess we'll go around one last time. Pick of the weeks for me was Batman number 74.
For me, it was Amazing Spider-Man 25. That felt like forever ago.
Yeah, right. And mine was Criminal.
Forgot if we've reviewed that today.
Yeah, right.
Well, technically, we reviewed it yesterday by this point.
Exactly. And
Not
mine was
long.
mine was Criminal number 6. So lit.
A very, very large week of comics. I don't know what it was with the week after July 4th with them going, all right, cool, we're releasing all the books this week. Have fun. I don't want this to happen again. 22 books is a lot to cover on one show. It's the longest podcast I think we've ever recorded, any kind of format, as long as we've all been doing this, even going back to when we were in school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's crazy if you can think of it that way. But I had fun this week. I don't want to speak for everyone. Did we have fun this week? I did.
I think we read a lot of books, but we also read a lot of good books.
Yeah,
exactly.
A lot more good books than bad, and a lot of books in play for pick of the week for me this week. So I had a lot of fun. But we should be back around the same time next week for even more comic fun and wackiness. So with that, we got nothing else to say. I'm going to end it. We all good?
We
Say
are
your goodbye.
great. Stay classy,
Make sure to
San
stay
Diego.
safe out there. Exactly. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.